talk to you.
We'll be in touch. Take care.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
We've already had the invocation at breakfast, so we'll get right on into the business of the meeting. First order of business will be the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. All of you received copies of them. If you wanted to dispense reading through them, it'd be okay.
Not so moved.
I second.
Thank you.
I don't
Got any
listen to
discussion
some.
on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. We have a brand new board member with us this morning, Brother Cecil Shelton, who was elected by the board to replace Brother Mister, who resigned. So I'd like to this time ask Brother Shelton to come up here and we'll give him the obligation real quick.
Need a speech too.
Yeah, we got to have some
Right.
speed.
Did we bring the goat? Where's the goat? Did we
Where's the
bring-
goat?
we had-
It's all right there, Cecil. Let's hold up your right hand and repeat after me. I, give your name,
I, Cecil Shelton,
do hereby promise
hereby promise
to faithfully perform the duties
to faithfully perform the duties
of the office to which I've been elected
to the office which I have been elected
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and to the benefit and honor
to the benefit and honor
of the Mississippi AFL-CIO.
of the Mississippi AFL-CIO.
And in the event of resignation
In the event of resignation
or removal from office,
or removal from office,
or at the expiration of my term,
or expiration of my term,
I promise to deliver to my successor
I promise to deliver to my successor
all property in my possession
all property of my possession
belonging to the council.
belonging to the council.
I further promise to protect
I further promise to protect
and defend
and
the
defend
American Federation of Labor
the American Federation of Labor
and Congress of Industrial Organizations
and Congress Industrial Organization
during my term of office.
in my term of office.
Congratulations, Cecil. We're glad to have you with us. Now, the usual procedure is for a new board member to make about a 30-minute speech on just about any subject they like.
Streak.
Well,
No, we don't want anything about streaking.
Well, I would like to say to Chairman Ramsey and tonight and to board members that I am deeply grateful to be elected to the Mississippi AFL-CIO Executive Board. And I didn't know I had to make a speech, but I'm going to say a few words if I can. Like Brother Taylor once said that when he sit down and you always think of a lot to say, but when you get up, the words keep on saying. That's what happened to me. Is when I was thinking a whole lot of things that I could say this morning, but when I got came up here, I guess my words still sitting down back there. They didn't come up with me. I would like to say that I'm real pleased to become a part of the State Executive Board. I have been in the labor movement for over 8 years now, and I know that the struggle that we are having in the labor movement. And as a board member, and as part of the labor movement, I'm going to serve and the best of my ability and to do my duties that are assigned to me the best that I know how. And I would also like to say that I believe in what we are doing, and I feel that in unity there is strength, and together that we'll stand, and divided we'll fall. I feel that if we, as working people, that's trade unions in the labor movement, that we would unite together as working people and as sisters and brothers, that we can do a better and effective job within the labor movement. I often sit down and think about the things that are happening in the labor movement, how people are being misled, and I often think about what Robert Kennedy once said, that some people see things as they are and say, why? But I dream things that never were and say, why not? I say, why not can we as working people, black and white, unite together in order to maintain a better way of life? I often look further into the labor movement. I think about what John F. Kennedy once said. It's not what your country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country. It's not what the Mississippi AFL-CIO can do for you, it's what we as working people can do for the Mississippi AFL-CIO. And I often think about a great man that gave his life on April the 4th, 1968, fighting for the sanitary workers in Memphis, Tennessee. He said that he had a dream. He said he dreamed that one day that all of God's children would join hands together and sing an old Negro spirit, thank God Almighty we're free at last. I feel that we as working people in the labor movement, the struggle that we are having, I feel like one day that we won't have to fight as hard as we're fighting now. I feel like that we can sit down and rest a while. We can't sit down and say that we are through, because this is a continuing thing that must continue on and on, because freedom don't come like a bird on a wing. Each generation got to win it all over again. I feel that we can't give up our struggle because we have put too much into it. We may give out, but we can't give up. We got to keep on trucking. And I feel that one day that we can sit down with brothers and sisters in the labor movement and say that we have reached our goal, and we're going to work harder than ever to maintain and keep what we have accomplished. Thank you.
Now tell the truth, you've been working on that speech. Very good, Cecil. We're happy to have you with us. And I know that you're going to do everything you can to help further the interests of the labor movement in your area and elsewhere. Well, as you will note on the agenda, we have passed out a rough agenda. We'll do our best to try to follow it. That's a number of subject matters. Yeah, maybe we have one there. Well, I'm sure we have. We'll get it one. Anyhow, we have got another item on the agenda which many of you thought we had resolved already, and that's the matter of convention site and convention hotel. And we've got a problem. We thought we'd share it with you and let you decide what it is we ought to do about it. So I'm going to let Brother Knight explain the problem to you.
You'll recall that, of course, that this has been up several times before the board. We, after considerable conversation, it was decided that we would go back to the Heidelberg Hotel because of a number of things. And based, however, on the promise that they give us that they were going to renovate that thing. And anyway, since the board met last, this cotton picking outfit has been leased to a corporation which operates a number of hotels. We heard rumors a few months back that the thing was in a bad way, they couldn't make their payroll, they couldn't meet their obligations. We tried to question some of the people down there, and of course they denied this, but the rumors continued, and finally it was very apparent what was going on. So we managed to get a person who worked there and was about to leave to tell us what the situation was. And at any rate, the renovation program did not materialize, and the hotel down there is in a real bad way. The rats has taken place, so we started looking around again for some possibilities with the same date in mind, October 21, 24. And of course we've got some other people present here who's had some experience with the Heidelberg recently, can verify what I'm saying.
We don't never plan to use it no more.
We, most all of the staff that we've dealt with have left down there. And we have a couple of choices to offer the board this morning. One is the new Hilton Hotel in Jackson. The other is the Sheraton Biloxi in Biloxi. The Hilton Hotel's rates are $20 a day for a single, $30 a day for a double. The rates at the Sheraton Biloxi is $16 a day single, $21 for a double. And we have tentative reservations for those dates at both places, with the understanding that we'll advise them this Monday morning what we propose to do, or what this board feels like we ought to do about the next convention.
Mr. Knight, if you finish with your report, I move we have in Jackson, Mississippi.
Motion is we have it in Jackson. Get a second?
Second. I'll second.
It's more simple.
Before we put the vote, Tom, I had a thought on this thing. Late the other afternoon, tried to check with the Admiral Benbow in on some of them, you know. And there is a possibility we might get a 40 or 50 rooms at a lower rate at the Benbow if you decide you want to have it here. Do we have a discussion on that motion? Ready for the vote?
Well, let me ask one question. What's wrong with the golf course? I mean, why in Jackson? Closer to the office or something?
Well, it's more centrally located, I would think. It's
Right, that
probably
was
what most of the people from up in North Mississippi especially,
That was the reason for my
I
motion,
would
it's
think.
centrally
That's been
located.
the thinking of the people in the past. Now, of course, we'll go wherever the board thinks we ought to go. as
See,
far as the
if you
office
have it
is
on the
concerned.
coast, Brother Fly, I got members have to drive 400 miles to get there, which is 800
It
round
costs
trip,
us
it's
a
pretty
lot
rough.
more money, of course. Costs the state council.
But anywhere you go, you can drive one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the distance, the difference in the distance. Yeah, you can drive 400 miles if you get up early and stay at it late with the speed limits and the road conditions like they are.
They got them streakers down on the coast anyway. You want to take this
Yeah.
bunch down there, we might lose them.
Well, let's see if we can get a vote on that. You ready to vote? The motion is that it be held in Jackson, and of course, that means that we're gonna probably have to go to the Hilton, and if we go to the Hilton, we'll see if we can get a block of 50 rooms maybe set aside at the Benbow, which is just up and across the street from the hotel.
What's the room rate for a single?
$20 for a single, and
Come a penny under that.
we can't get them down. We tried that one up in the beginning. We can probably get 50, maybe 60 rooms at the Benbow
what
at about
is this?
$14 a day.
How does this affect everybody around the table? Is this their expenses, from their local unions cover this, or what?
It is, no.
Nope.
Local workers just give them what? The limit in the Constitution, $30 a day for meals.
Ours 18.
Well, they can put up in a double if they got
Right.
nice rooms, and getting two to the room, of course, you cut out on the cost.
I'm all for that.
In my opinion, it would be more expensive on the coast even with a lower room rate. Because you got the more additional
The
travel
mileage
both
is
ways
what-
to get there, and you'll find the food prices and stuff a little higher along the coast than you will here in Jackson.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Knowing
Yes,
people
sir.
going.
I'd hate to eat if it cost me any more
It
to get
does.
down.
No.
You go down there to some, depends on where you eat, of course, but.
Say it has said
Man,
you wish
this
we
is
could
how
just
you
get
get
one
it.
speaking at a time. She's having trouble recording the minutes here.
I hope she's
Uh,
taking it down.
You got what you said about the streakers. I'm gonna let your wife read it. Do we have any further discussion? Not, the motion is to hold a convention in Jackson. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Well, we shall proceed then, I guess, Brother Knight, to make the arrangements probably for the Hilton. I don't think we got any choice, frankly. We look for this thing to probably be shut down by the time we come to the convention, and the rats and the roaches are about to take it over anyhow, and I think we'll just have all kinds of problems at the Heidelberg.
I'd just like to comment, we used it a couple of weekends ago just for a small group of about 10 people. And the rooms were so dirty we couldn't use them. Most of the people couldn't even use their bathtubs. We tried to get the place cleaned up. None of the rooms had televisions in it. The ones that did have had a sign on them, out of order. One of the girls' rooms either had sawdust or cookies or something where a bunch of kids had stayed, and we asked them 3 times, and about 10 o'clock that night to come up there and vacuum that floor.
Yeah.
Well, I thought everybody got
Of course,
tired of that
it's a lot
place years
cheaper to
ago.
hold the thing here in Jackson, Bob. We've tried to do a little figuring on it. the state organization, it'll cost us $1,500 to $2,000 more by having it down there than having it here. So, from our point of view, it'll be less expensive. Okay, let's get that's out of the way, so we'll go ahead and make the arrangements. Hopefully, we won't have to bring that matter before you again. The next matter down on the agenda is this matter of convention speakers. I thought we might ought to have a little discussion on that to see if any of you had a particular speaker that you wanted to invite. I've already invited Senator Henry Jackson, and got a letter back from him to the effect that he couldn't accept the invitation because of a previous engagement. I've got a letter from Senator Benson from Texas about a matter which I think indicates that he would like to be on our program. Senator Mondale from Minnesota has been mentioned by several people as a possible Democratic nominee. We have these kinds of people in mind from the national level, in addition, of course, to some of our own state government officials. I assume it'd be all right to invite our governor back to this one. I don't know of anything outstanding he's done for or against us at this point. But we would like to find out if any of you have a particular person you'd like to invite to the convention here this morning.
Just that you better be careful, because we invited Agnew to our convention of Boilermakers, and he showed up, and he had to resign right after that.
We hope we don't get any one of them.
What was you doing inviting a Republican to start with?
Well, we'll try to. Yeah.
On this people to speak, Carol, did he talk to you about
HRDI?
Yeah,
I've got letters from all over the place about somebody being on the program. We'll invite most of the dignitaries in the labor movement. Jim Sala, people like that. Alan Kessler, director of organization. I mean, this is all standard. I just thought maybe if you had some particular person that you'd like to invite, if you throw it out here this morning, we'll do it. Bob and I have been talking about a couple of people. We'll invite, what's his name, the Vice President O'Neill, Frederick O'Neill. We're going to see if we can get him here. He's the Vice President. Does a very good job. Thought we'd get him. Maybe Norman Hill with A. Philip Randolph Institute. We can't get by at Ruston. I thought I'd invite President Abel of the Steelworkers, who is president of the Industrial Union Department, since we're trying to get an organizing program going. People like this, but I thought maybe if some of you had somebody of a national stature or some prominent person you'd like to be considered, would give you an opportunity this morning, you know? You want to leave it up to us? All right, we'll do the best we can. Okay. I'm going to skip that next one on the report on the legislature's tax equalization and get into the congressional election situation and let Brother Tom Knight spend a few minutes with you on that one.
Well, the deadline's passed to qualify for Congress April 5th. We wound up with something like this in the 2nd District. Incumbent Bowen, one Democratic opponent, present mayor of Houston, fellow Robertson, and a Republican opponent in the general election, Ben Hillman Jr. from Starkville, the son of the late Dr. Ben Hillman, former president of MSU, who was a state senator for 2 terms as a Democrat. In the 4th District here in Jackson, we have the incumbent Cochran, fellow Coleman as an opponent in the Republican primary, black. The Democratic primary, we have Ken Dean, who is chairman of the board of the outfit that operates Channel 3 television here. Charles Ivey of Clinton, a businessman. Mrs. Helen Williams of Jackson, who ran for city commissioner here, is black. James Meredith, black, who you'll recall was the first black student at Ole Miss. Lonzo Sturgeon, who's Chancery Clerk of Amite County, in the Democratic race, and the Republican, well, I already mentioned the Republican, Coleman and Cochran. Down in the 5th District, we, of course, have the incumbent Republican, I guess unopposed in the Republican primary. We have a lawyer, Carl Mertz, who ran as a Republican 2 years ago, who's seeking the Democratic nomination, a fellow Murphy from Pascagoula, and a fellow Waller from Bay St. Louis, I believe. And as far as I know, maybe the fellows down there know a little more about them. That's what we have. Now, here is what we have, in discussions with some of the leadership from the 5th District, decided that it would just be foolish to spend our time and effort with the 5th District. We think we would only make Trent Lott look good. We hate to see this guy roll up 2 more years seniority, but we have to look to 76 with hope that we'll have a good party slate and a good candidate by that time, and several have already been discussed, some good possibilities down there. And what we've done in the 2nd District and the 4th, we have designated interview and screening committees. Those committees have been advised by mail. It's in the mail now. They should have it. We have called meetings for Winona, Mississippi, and Jackson here for Saturday, May 4th, for 9:30. The questionnaires have been prepared. They have gone to the candidates for certified mail. 2 have been returned here already. At that time, these committees will receive these questionnaires and evaluate them, and then the district conventions will be held at the same place on the same date at 1:30. We think, insofar as the 4th Congressional District is concerned, that we might have in the making a situation here that maybe few people suspect that might be real interesting, and we just might slip up on Cochran. This guy, Dean, is a wheel horse if you ever saw one when it comes to bird dogging people and making contact. I see Brother Woodson smile. He knows somewhat I'm talking about. This guy's buttonholed everybody in the 4th District that controls as many as 2 votes from that on up. And you'd be surprised some of the contacts he's made. And one other thing that enters into this thing, as we see it, that is a possibility. You know, the split situation we've got as far as the Democratic Party is concerned. Well, this character's got a tremendous amount of connection with some of the loyalists and also some of those in leadership positions in the regular Democrats. And he says up to this point that the only person in the district who has told him that they're against him is Jackson Mayor Russell Davis. And I said, well, Ken, you look better all the time. If he's against you, then you know there's got to be something good about you, see? So that is simply a kind of a recommendation or what we've done up to this point. We feel like that the 2nd and the 4th needs to be looked at. I might point out that the 2nd District Congressman has come around some. We got a vote on the last minimum wage legislation. However, I might say that we got all the Mississippi delegation except the gentleman from the 3rd, Mr. Montgomery. And, of course, we didn't expect that, and we didn't expect the others for that matter. But at least I don't think that Bowen has any problems in the primary or the general election, really, but you don't ever know. We've checked on the situation and found that our suspicions were verified. The Republicans in the 2nd District and the Abernathy Democrats are all still together, and they all went to Ben Hillman and told him they'd finance his campaign. He's got problems with some of his close friends and members of his family because he agreed to run as a Republican. The same crowd have put the mayor of Houston in the race, so what they've done, it's all one and the same. They're going to run him in the primary, and then if he loses, hopefully stop Bowen with Hillman in the general election. So I think we got to look at these things and get geared up and do whatever in the judgment of the committee and the membership in the district feel that we ought to do. So that's where we are right now.
me ask, especially Brother Jackson and Brother Kelly, we don't have anybody else in the fifth, do we?
Herbert.
Herbert
Williams.
Yeah, Herbert. Three of you about the fifth district. First, I guess we ought to tell you about the poll we made on that situation.
Yeah, I was interested in what you found out.
Yes, any of you wants to take a look at this, this is it, if you think you can decipher it as to what it's all about. But
That's the trouble with polls, but.
Right, but we do have a summary, a couple of summaries of the thing, and without going into a lot of detail on the thing, what it all added up to was that Ben Stone was the only person that had the ghost of a chance to take Trent Lott in this situation. The recognition factor was almost as good as it was for Lott. But we found in this poll a surprisingly large amount of support for Richard Nixon in this district, believe it or not. And after meeting with the people that made the poll and those people that can properly analyze it, we came to the conclusion, I must say we had Ben Stone in on this, that it would take a real hard fight and we'd have to spend an awful lot of money, and then the possibility of winning would be very slim. And Ben Stone meditated on this thing quite at length, and in final analysis decided he did not want to make another race, or he didn't think he could afford to run another losing race. And to make a long story short, we wound up without a prominent candidate qualifying in the Democratic primary. You do have a couple of people that have announced, as far as we can determine, they don't have much of a following, much of a record. And our opinion is that perhaps we ought not fool with the 5th District in the primary, take a look at it after the primary, prior to the general election, and maybe things have changed, maybe put something together. But you folks in the 5th District know your situation better than we do. And I told T.L. Nikes a couple of days ago, who called me about this, president of the Harrison County Central Body, we'd be having this board meeting, and that we would try to make some kind of a determination about this, and I must say he agrees with that. So let's let the people from the 5th tell us what they think right now. Okay, Tom?
Go ahead, Ken.
Who wants to lead off?
There ain't nothing to discuss. That's a dead issue.
Can
No,
say
there's
what
no use
everybody else
us wasting any of our time. I got all these gray hair from fighting for Ben Stone while he was asleep every night, you
Right.
know? And there's no use endorsing any of these people. You couldn't beat him with any of them, and if you got one of them elected, this Carl Mertz, he's just a quack about like old Charles Blackwell. I guess he runs for office when they announce, and he is a Republican one week and a Democrat the next, and probably wind up running as an independent on the next time in office is over. I don't know if he's a lawyer or a school teacher. I've been told he's a
School teacher, I believe. I was mistaken about that. He's not a lawyer.
Ran for
And,
Republican last time.
Yeah, and he'll be running something else next time, but there's no use wasting our money, do you think?
I get a letter from
No.
him every other day with his campaign
Who,
list.
Mertz?
Yeah.
What do you know of the situation, Herbert?
Well, I don't particularly know any of the new candidates. Lott's the only one I really know, and of course I don't know too much good about him, but I don't know anything too bad about him either. So.
But he doesn't have much. He never held office. Doesn't have much following.
Well, of course this is his first time. He could get better or worse.
We talking about Mertz now.
Oh, well,
you talking about
no,
Trent
I was
Lott?
talking about Lott.
Well, we don't know anything good about Trent Lott.
Well, that's what I said. I don't know
Yeah.
anything good he's done or anything bad, but the other fellas, I don't know anything at all but what I read in the paper.
Yeah.
And incidentally, his announcement, he did say he was a school teacher. And I wouldn't be at liberty to say anything about any of them.
Let me point this out, that Congressman Lott, I've got it at the office, was one of only 3 members of the House Judiciary Committee that voted against subpoenaing Richard Nixon.
Hey,
Only 3 members
and the
of
reason he
the
voted-
entire committee.
reason he voted that way,
Republican,
lot is, you know, old man Bill had all this seniority, and, you know, he didn't have to worry about the people back home. But Trent Lott, I don't know, he must be voting absentee, because every time you look up, he is at a junior chamber, or just Lions Club, Farm Bureau, State Farm. He's at a different meeting in that district, in a different town practically every night. I don't know, you know, he's created the fuel shortage just riding airplanes back and forth to Washington.
He has the office.
And he's been politicking for 2 solid years, harder than he was when he was in the race.
That's true.
And he has got it,
Well,
and
that
he has
poll
got it
indicates
accepted.
that he's been successful.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
I tell you another thing he's done, he sends out questionnaires periodically on several issues.
Yeah, I think that's.
And I think he's being influenced by the replies, and I
That's
think
right.
the replies is people who support Richard Nixon, and they make this obvious, and even if Lott wanted to do different, he's afraid to. Because I've seen some of the polls, I get a copy of that thing every time he sends it out, and I've answered a few of them myself. And on one of his last ones, he had on there, do you think Richard Nixon ought to resign or be impeached? Of course, I wrote resigned or impeached and signed my name in big letters and sent it back. I hadn't got any correspondence from him since then, and I may not get any more.
Hey, that's right. And you know,
But,
had a little address up there if you wanted to continue to be on my mailing list.
Yeah.
And
I fill that out too, 'cause I want to keep getting the stuff.
my secretary gets it, but she didn't fill the other one out. But
Right.
boy, if you put something bad about the group, you was taken off the dang mailing list.
I may
Every
not
one
get
of
the
it.
next questionnaire, but I know he's put out 3 questionnaires in the 2 years, and each one of them had 5 or 6 points on them that was being discussed in the Congress. And he wants a yes or no answer or comment. So what he's doing is polling the district on a lot of these issues,
At
and
our expense.
he's getting more answers slanted that way, I'm afraid.
Cochran doing the same thing.
But I'd say Trent Lott's got it sewed up. Even if Ben Stone had a run, in my opinion, he would have lost.
The only candidate we can get is the best judge in that district. I mean, a guy that's never been cut up in politics, probably one of these chancellor judge or circuit judges that don't never have an opponent. He's well liked in the community, good background, and just run him against him as a law and order type guy, you know. And that'd be the only way to defeat him.
Judge Maples.
Well, he'd be my personal choice because you know where Darwin Maples stands, you know.
If we could get a motion from one of you guys that we
I so move we don't take a position.
take a position in the
Right.
5th district on the primaries, if we wait till after the primaries to then take a look at the situation. We get a motion from one of you guys.
Yeah, you done got a
I'll-
motion and a
I'll-
second.
Right, okay, we have any further discussion on that matter? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, Brother Knight has outlined to you what the machinery he's started in terms of setting up the committees to interview the other candidates, got out questionnaires to those candidates. They are now coming back in, and we'll work with the people in these other 2 districts and trying to help review and make a determination on those 2 situations.
Right.
We get a motion to approve that action.
I
Yes,
so
I make-
move.
All right, any discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And a hell of a fix they had to prove that, wouldn't it, Tom?
We sure would, and as he went out and got them questions.
Okay, so much for that. Might as well get back up now, I guess, to the report on the legislature and the tax equalization situation. We have reported to you from time to time on the action of the legislature, and I won't get into any lengthy discussion or lengthy report on the entire session. I must say that this was probably the busiest session that I've ever been around. There's no question but what these fellas came to town and went to work in a hurry. They had more room this time. They moved everybody out of the Capitol, took over the office spaces over there for committee meetings, which meant that they were able to have more committee meetings, had more public hearings in this session than ever in the history of the state, I guess. course, we tried to participate in those that we thought was of interest to the people we represented. There was some good things come out of the session. They did pass several good pieces of legislation, not directly affecting our members, but after all, they're citizens and taxpayers. And I guess probably one of the most significant things that they passed was this Central Purchasing Act, whereby the Board of Supervisors will now have to purchase the supplies on a central basis. We think this is going to be good to clean up the Board of Supervisors situation. Of course, they did enact legislation that ought to have some bearing on the 16th section land situation in terms of the schools getting more money out of 16th section. And as most of you probably know, the governor his veto was overridden not once but 4 different occasions. I don't know if you got that last report we got out about that or not, but on each and every one of those situations, as far as I was concerned, the legislature was right in overriding his veto. I've felt like for some time that this was on its way. Bill Waller's done some good things, but he's done some very stupid things in terms of cultivating key members in the legislature. And this all was an accumulation of things that built up. And when he vetoed a couple of bills that were very important, the legislature simply overrode it. I think it might be good in the future for this to have happened. The thing that I think we need to spend more time on here this morning is this matter of equalization. At the very beginning of the legislative session, we testified before the full committee, the House Ways and Means, on this, presented our position, our viewpoints on it. You remember there was a special committee set up to study this matter, and they drafted a special bill dealing with the situation, and eventually it was considered by the House. The bill that was introduced, considered by the House, was almost right down the line in what we thought it ought to be. It set up the machinery to evaluate uniformly property in all 82 counties. I must say that this has to be done in the first step towards bona fide equalization. First have to get properly evaluated. Then, of course, the next thing that the bill would have done, that the next session of the legislature after this was done, then would establish a uniform assessment ratio in all 82 counties. In other words, the same percent of true value would be assessed in all 82 counties. It's a very complicated subject, and I don't profess to be an expert on it. But it's a very important matter, and there's much riding on it. All of you are familiar with the problems faced by the schools. The school teachers are in a revolt now, and they're organizing unions every day because of their salary situation. One of the main problems in funding the schools is the fact that the school districts themselves, because of the fact that we don't have properly evaluated and assessed, the schools don't have the tax base to raise their local money. I'm sure all of you are aware of the fact that most of the money that runs local government, county and city government, comes from the property tax, whereas the reverse is true at the state. Most of that money comes from the sales tax and the state income tax. The big problem in financing schools is that one. We have been trying to get this done, uniform assessment, reevaluation, reappraisal, however you want to describe it. We've been pushing it now for about 12 or 14 years, to my knowledge. We had hoped that the legislature would act, and that the state tax commission itself would enforce our own Constitution, which is very clear on the subject, I must say. But I've concluded, as a result of the action of this session of the legislature, that if anything is going to be done in this area, it's going to have to come about as a result of court action. And I'm recommending to you here this morning that we take a very close look at this matter, that we look at the possibility of joining with some other people that are interested in this same problem, because it will cost some money, and begin to move into this area of possible court action on this subject. I think we have to. If we don't do it, the next session of the legislature is going to be faced with this kind of a proposition. The money's not going to be there to come up with the necessary money for teacher salaries, and they're going to have to come up with another tax increase, and I'll give you one good guess where that tax increase is going to be. It's going to be another increase on the sales tax, on the state income tax, which is going to affect directly the people we represent. So that's the situation. I'd like to throw it out here for discussion this morning.
Claude, I'd like to ask a question. If I'm not mistaken, hadn't somebody along the coast already entered a suit on this?
There has been a suit
Could you bring us
filed.
up to date on what that one is and
Well,
what it's doing?
that is one of the things that I'd like to explore. I've talked to several members of the Harrison County delegation, Jim Simpson and Elton Bolden, to be specific. We're a little familiar with it. Gary Bless is another one. I'm not too sure if that suit does exactly what we want. That one came about as a result of the Board of Supervisors, I guess, raising the assessment on, in this particular situation where it's completely out of kilter with everything around it, and they're being discriminated against. But what I would like to do, if the board approves of it, is I'd like to take a look at that situation. I'd like to sit down and talk with some other people that are concerned about the matter. And then there's another matter that we need to get involved in this, and this is this matter of this cotton-picking dual school system we got. This municipal separate district versus the county school district, where the municipal separate districts have got all the tax base, the money, and kids in these cities and these schools are much more money is being spent on them. They're getting better educated result, whereas the people in the outlying territories, they don't have the money, they don't have the good school system, and I think we need to tie all of it together. And I'd like to explore all of this and maybe approach it, try it all together.
I'll probably say more on this than I should. I've been talking to some of my own members about this. There's some reluctance, Claude, on the part of myself, for that matter, to undertake a suit on this. I'll tell you why. If we got any assurance, if we force a lawsuit on this and a reevaluation, that the working people's going to get a break.
That's it.
You see, the problem could well be that it'll wind up all of us paying more taxes, and we'll be the very fellow that brought the suit to cause it. Then you're going to have some real unhappy members, and they're going to give us some problems on it. Now, several of my members just took the position, fine, if it's going to lower my taxes, but they've already been increased about double in the last 5 years. If they're going up after that, then what are you trying to do? I mean, this is the situation I'm getting. If it was clear, and I even tried to talk to some tax assessors, they don't understand it. They don't, when you say the same percentage of true value, who's going to determine the true value in each county, and is that going to be uniform? Percent of what, see?
Claude, maybe I can enlighten them, because we are one of the counties that's done just what you're talking about. We took in the county.
All right, you explain what's happening in Adams County. This
Down in
is a
Adams County, we got
complicated
into
thing,
the
and I
same
guess
problem. I guess everybody knows the area I'm from, and we've had more
but it just
problems
went
than
up on
anybody
the
else
other
with bombings and everything else. But this didn't stop us. So we got where we combine the county and the city school system, and we're busing, and we don't have a one school system. We don't have the dual
Right.
system anymore, as you talking about.
Right.
So we did take the bull by the horns and say, well, we want one school system. But I was out in a rural area, and it was not in downtown, in the municipal schools. You could get anything. You could be qualified to go to any university in the United States and study anything you wanted, from engineering to doctor, anything you wanted to. But out in the rural area, all you could ever qualify for was a school teacher. I mean, that's all you could do. White, black, and all was treated the same, okay? So you don't get the same education. Don't tell me you do, because you just don't do it. So, all right, now we get into the other situation. You had this tax system that you had, like you were talking about. Are you going to reevaluate? Yes. But we come into my home is evaluated, say, true valuation, say $15,000 to $18,000. But the politician over here, Mr. Johnny Junkin, had some property that his was evaluated about 1/10 of what mine was for.
Situation.
So what we do, you say, how are you gonna do this? Your local people don't do it. You call in a consulting firm from some university out of North Carolina or somewhere else that specializes in evaluation property. They go around, they ask you if you got hardwood floors, how many rooms you got, how many bathrooms you got. They give you a real, true evaluation of what your property is worth.
Right.
Then they sit down with the board of supervisors and other people concerned with an open meeting. Say, now we're gonna say this is a true $20,000 home. But we're gonna only assess it 25% of what the true value is. Then you're gonna pay 57 mills on $5,000 is the way it does, and everybody's treated the same. Now,
Did anybody's taxes go down in your county under that
Oh, yeah,
system?
some of them went down, some
How
of them
many
went up.
went up?
Yeah, some of them went up. But if you're gonna, I mean, now Adams County is like this, now we got Colin, everybody know where Colin over at, what you call it? We are the only county in that district is paying 1 mill to support Colin College. Franklin County, Mid County and all them, they can't afford it. But we're paying 1 mill to support Colin. And we got another Colin and Mississippi Southern there too, and we're supporting this attack.
You know,
So we are hollering about the school teachers. The only place you're gonna get any money for the school teachers is they say, now we're gonna pay taxes. You're gonna be unpopular. Tupelo's gonna be more unpopular than that. But how can I sit down in Natchez and say, now I am paying 5 times or 20 times more than he is in Tupelo or over at Hattiesburg? How much longer you assessing your property and you only paying on 7%, and mine's up to 35%?
I tell you,
I still
Ray,
think the
You're gonna
key
be the
to it is
most-
who sets the actual value on the property, unless it
No,
was
you're
the
gonna have
same
to
group
call in-
statewide, you'd still have the discrepancy, that was my
No,
point.
you're gonna have to call in a professional consultant firm to do it, because you don't have anybody, I don't say
No,
anybody in the
right.
state to do it, but in your county, you probably
But
don't.
Brother Fly, the point I'm making is unless that same firm said it in every county of the state, you're still gonna have disparity, because if you brought in a separate group for a different county, they'd evaluate slightly different.
Not if you got a consulting firm, a bunch of engineers. and
You can
got a
hire
group
10
of-
consulting firms, I bet you'll get a different figure from every one of them.
Not if you sit down and say, now this home is here, so many square feet is what you got in
Just
this
like
home.
lawyers on a case.
Well, how did you do it on automobiles? I don't know how much ever, you talking about paying taxes. Now, over in Adams County, my automobile cost me $180 a year. And my home on a 2-bedroom, of course I got hardwood floors, 1 bath and all this, is about $165. But look, I mean, we brought in a Colin Junior College, we brought in Mississippi Southern, we're supporting Colin over here and all this.
I understand.
Because not on top of that, Claude may
Well,
not even know this, we are subsidizing the teachers about $100 and something a month, on top of what this,
Because you've got the
Let me-
tax base.
we
to
got
raise
the money there because we reassessed the.
the politics is the tax, you know, you can go from house to house and everybody is paying a different amount.
Right.
When the first year after I built my home, it was $86. Man, I said, I can't believe this. This is ridiculous, you know, just to pay $86. And I told that to the tax guy, and the next year he sent me a notice that was $130. So I said, I went over to pay that one, and I said, man, this is something, you know, raise them
Almost double.
this percent, you know, for 1 year. I said, why'd you do this? So this past year when I got it, they had it back down to 103, so I don't know what the hell they figured now.
They don't either.
3 times they sent me 3 different figures.
No,
It
it's
went
a
up and back
scientific way
down.
to evaluate this property though. You take up, well, let's take the Delta land where you get really trouble down there. We had farmland that was evaluated at 25 cents an acre that was selling to grow soybeans on for $600 an acre.
Well, this is what we're talking about.
That's
This
the
is
same
where the
thing
real
about
inequity is.
Claude, and you're
Well-
gonna have to get into it, whether you're gonna be the most unpopular people in the world, but when organized labor quits taking unpopular stand, he ought to go out of business. I mean, that's all it is.
You know, what gets me is you ride for miles down in our section, you know, by International Scott Paper Company, timber, you know, worth roughly probably $800 to $1,000 an acre, and they assessed at $12 an acre, and they pay, when you figure this out, it runs it back down to something like 50 cents an acre per year.
Well, we had the same
This
problem.
is what we're really
You
talking
got
about, and
no
this is where
assurance
the
that
real
gonna
inequity.
remain after you do it.
Huh?
That's the point I'm raising. How are you gonna be assured that that's gonna change?
Well, let
even
me-
if you change the law.
Let me see if I can clear this up a little bit. It is a complicated subject, no question about it. And there is a lot of opposition to it, and there's been a lot of false information put out about it, because these large landowners and people like Kelly's talking about, and own literally millions of acres of timberland and farmland, what have you, in this state, are paying little or no taxes. This is where the real opposition comes from. Now, you raise the question, it has to be done uniformly. That's what the original bill in the House provided, that this would be the main thing that bill did, that things would be done uniformly in all 82 counties. And then, let me see if I can get this matter of assessment ratio out for you. This is where one of the real inequities is. This thing just runs all over the lot from county to county. The property to begin with is not properly evaluated, but the assessment ratio runs anywhere from 7 to about 30% from county to county, which means that even though you might have the property evaluated properly, unless you have a uniform assessment, a certain percent of value is assessed, and that we use the figure 25%. After the value is set, then it'll be assessed at the same percent of value. 25% we'll use as a figure. Only 25% of the property would be assessed. All property would be assessed at the same percent, the same ratio. Now, the other factor in the picture is the millage. Now, this is handled by the boards of supervisors and by the municipal authorities in the cities. You get me?
Yeah.
And of course, there's limits there as to what the millage would be based upon the county's needs. Now, let's look at that one for about a half a minute. If you have reevaluation and uniform assessment ratio, the budget of the county government is then set according to its needs. The millage is set according to the needs of the county, and this is done by the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
It's highly possible, and it's happening in some of the counties. If this is done, about a third of the people will probably receive a tax reduction, about a third will stay about like they are, and about a third will probably get an increase. Now, another factor in the picture, and I want you to listen to this one very carefully, is the homestead exemption factor. Under the present setup, with homestead exemption, you receive an exemption of $5,000 on the first $5,000 of assessed valuation. And we insist on keeping it there, because that in itself is a protection to the small homeowner, the people that we're talking about. Now, if you do what we're talking about, by maintaining homestead exemption, the chances are that most of the small homeowners will probably get a tax reduction. At least they won't get much tax increase. The people that's going to get the tax increase are those people that own these big holdings, who are paying a little bit or no taxes. That's the kind of a situation that we're dealing with. Again, remember that the amount of taxes you pay will, in final analysis, be based upon the millage levied by the Board of Supervisors, and that millage will be no higher than it has to be to raise the necessary money to run the county government.
Which will vary from county to county.
Vary from county to county.
Right. Carl,
Yes.
if you remember, we had a tax increase here in Jackson. We had a lowered on the millage.
You had reevaluation.
We had a reevaluation.
Right.
We had a lower on the millage, but the taxes went up.
Did anybody's go down?
Not that I know.
That's the point I'm making.
So let me.
Well, the only thing I don't like about it, these large paper companies now are leasing this land to these hunting clubs for 20 cents and 25 cents an acre, and they're making a profit, but they ought to have to claim it as under a different law when they start leasing it out. They got it fixed up now under agriculture or something. They ought to classify the whole property now as industrial, if they doing this type thing for business racket, and they getting more back on the hunting lease than paying taxes on that stuff. Because I figured up, on my house in 3 acres, it takes it takes a half a section of International Paper Company's land for them to pay as much as I pay on my house in 3 acres. And that half a section in timber is worth better than $500,000, and I don't think I can get $500,000 for my house, 3 acres of land, you know? That's how unfair it is, but I don't know how you correct it.
Well,
What are we gonna do? We gonna do this, or we gonna pay more state sales tax and income tax? Now, what are we gonna do?
well, this is the decision I think you have to make. And this is what it's gonna come down to eventually, is that we either get property properly evaluated and everybody paying their fair share on property tax, or the legislature's gonna come back with an increase in the sales tax and probably an increase in the state income tax, which is gonna hit the average working guy much harder than the property tax. The cold facts of the matter is that we've got a bunch of people in this state who own a lot of land, a lot of property, and a lot of them, these big timber companies we're talking about, just flat ain't paying any taxes much. And then another thing we got is a lot of property just ain't on the tax rolls. And some of the states that have done this, they found that there was all kinds of acreage out there that wasn't even on the rolls that people were paying no taxes on.
What do they call it, lost land, or lost
Right.
deed or something?
Let me ask you a few questions about this mills. Now, I understand that supervisors and the cities set the millage, and I just wondered if you could, while you're doing something, if you could give us some relief on this. I don't know how much you know about it, but they hold a election, you know, to build a school, build a courthouse in the county. We got to raise the millage four mills to build this thing.
Right.
Now the law says, the way I understand it, that the people have to vote on that, to whether they want to build it or not.
I think so. I'm not in every case. I'm not familiar with the law, but I think.
In case,
I think now. Let me interrupt you just a minute. I think in these kinds of situations, the Board of Supervisors have the right to levy that millage, but you also have a right to petition for election.
Yeah.
Now, if enough people don't petition for the election, it stands. I think
that's right. That's exactly right. All right. All right. Let's say a county, they decide they're gonna raise a millage to build a courthouse. Just all counties got a courthouse. So the people petition, we don't want it. So they have to bring it to election to see if they want it or not. All right, now they bring it to election and they vote to increase taxes to build a courthouse. Now what happens, and I know it happens in quite a few counties, I know it happened in mine, was that we need the courthouse, so we voted to build a courthouse. But we've done paid for that courthouse, and they increase this thing, and then when the courthouse gets paid for, they still got this money coming in, and they use our money that we voted for the courthouse to go ahead and do something that we don't want. Do you follow me? In other words, when this courthouse gets paid for, it automatically drop that millage back down. And if they want some money for something else, they ought to let the people vote on it again. The same way in the school districts. A lot of the schools, when they're building schoolhouses or building something that's worthwhile, the people don't mind voting for it. But when they turn around in and want to go off on some scheme to do something that don't benefit the people, why, they raise the millage to build a schoolhouse. When they get the schoolhouse paid for, they use the money to do what they want to with it.
That's like a burn issue.
On the tax.
We got a seawall tax on the Gulf Coast on gasoline. They built a seawall 40 years ago, and they still got the tax, and they keep the beaches up and everything else. But that's just the kind of thing we're talking about.
But as far as I'm concerned on the equalization of taxes, I'm sure it would raise my taxes. But I am for it in that I can pay more taxes if it gets this big man. If he'll pay his fair part, I don't mind paying mine.
That's what it's really all about.
I know
Now, here's somebody shaking their head and saying it won't, because I happen to be on this committee to do these things. I was on the plant medical school, and I can show you some evaluations of property that, people own down there. I mean, thousands of acres. I know
Jackson.
Leonard's got 30 sections. He had about, 70,000 acres. He was paying, they call it cut over timberland, and hadn't been cut in 25 years. Hadn't been cut. They call it cut over timberland, and he was paying taxes on 10 cents an acre. That went to about $80 an acre in our county. I don't know what it's gonna do down there. But if you don't get involved, if you say you're gonna get into this, and every citizen doing just like we doing today, we not gonna get involved unless somebody else, you're gonna take a licking. But you're gonna have to get involved
This
with it. I mean,
group
that's
has been
the
up
only way.
there messing around with the penitentiary.
So
I was looking for them to do this for a long time.
It's 10 cents an acre, 15.
Yeah, let's
group
see,
is-
Joe.
Claude, I want
Dave.
to,
Let's see if we have a little order. This is a very important thing. We won't
I
get
wanted this
everybody a
thing
chance
to go on the
to
record,
speak and
because
speak.
I want to tell you exactly what my people at the central body meeting told me, in Tupelo. More than likely, our taxes would probably be raised. And they made this real clear. They don't want their damn per capita tax used for a lawsuit that's a possibility of raising their property taxes.
That's
Now, that's the message they gave me.
The same thing my membership said.
So I wanted, in the record that I told you this.
Yeah, I done had to
that's our
defend this
problem.
down at the
That's the point
CWA
I'm-
meeting the other
Well,
night.
I have found it.
Let's take them one at a time now. Let's get you, and then we'll get Howard.
I found that when they're floating a bond issue or anything to build recreation or whatever you have, if you don't have time to really investigate it, just find out how the big shots, the big property owners is voting, and vote right opposite, and you'll always be right. And if you look in the state today, and I got some members that's just like y'all are, that says, for goodness sakes, don't raise our taxes. But if it's gonna raise the working people's taxes just a little and really hit them big people, I think in the long run it's gonna be for the betterment of the whole state and our people too.
Well, this is what it's really all about. Howard, you wanted it. Brother Ray?
Well,
Excuse me, let Howard.
I just started to say, I met with some of the representatives up home earlier and talked to them about this particular issue.
And I can call a couple of names. I know one of them in particular. We'll
And-
talk about his position in a few minutes.
And we had some pretty heated arguments, and then when I reported it back to the membership about they like to hung me, I don't mind telling you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the opposition is doing a better job with some of our members than we are. There ain't no question about that. The Farm Bureau Federation has fought it. We got a lot of false information that's been put out by it. And you ought to heard the debate about this. I missed the first 4 hours. I had to go to Atlanta. But when it was brought up again, this is what they're saying, that this is going to increase everybody's taxes. And what the people that's leading the fight on this is the big property owners. We got a representative over here in Rankin County that owns half of the damn county. Old man Kennedy, to be specific, very bitterly opposes it because it's going to force him to pay more taxes. Now, the situation is this. I don't believe I mentioned the appropriations, what had happened after the bill was killed, but the House increased an appropriation to the Tax Commission for study on the matter. You see, the Tax Commission has got the authority. The Constitution is clear now to enforce the law on this. But they let this thing rock along here for generations, and it's got completely out of kilter like it is. The Senate cut that appropriations back to about $200,000 for the Tax Commission. Bill Bergen, Marvin, was involved in this one. The Tax Commission will be doing some work on this in terms of making studies and preparing information and that kind of thing. Now, you might want to wait and see what comes out of this, But I'm telling you here today, in my opinion, if this matter is ever resolved, it's gonna be resolved by court action. And I think those people, those members of yours and of ours, that are taking a position they don't want their money spent for court action, should be made aware of the fact that if this is not done, that they might well be paying several $100s a year more in additional income taxes or additional sales taxes, because that's what she's gonna eventually come down to.
Let me ask a question, if you don't mind.
Let Brother Taylor have it.
What would be the nature of the court procedure?
The court procedure would simply be to enforce the state constitution. I think the state Supreme Court of Mississippi would issue the order itself. I don't think it'd even have to be a federal court. And if this organization doesn't join in it, doesn't mean there won't be a court suit. I think perhaps there'll be a court suit by some other people.
I wanted to comment on that
Right, let's let Brother Taylor get through, and then we'll get to you, Brother Taylor.
Well, that was what I had in mind, to clarify, as far as we could, the procedure by which this would be done.
Yeah.
It'd be necessary for us to employ counsel, to initiate a suit,
Right.
injunctive, or suit, or what the nature of the suit would be, and some of the technical, legal
Right.
aspects of the thing. That's what I had in mind, if we could get a clarification on it.
Yeah, well, frankly, what I'd like to do is to sit down with some other people that have expressed an interest in this thing, and perhaps set up some type of a committee that would, wouldn't necessarily be filed in the name of state AFL-CIO, but would simply be one of the participants in the suit. This is what I think would probably be the best thing to do if we go to court. Now, again, you might wanna wait and see what comes out of this last session over the appropriation. I promised the floor to Brother Tucker down there. He wanted the floor for a minute.
I was just gonna comment, in Meridian, we've got a civil engineer who's a Republican leader that's very interested in filing suit to have this done. He's talked to a local attorney on his own.
Let him file it.
Gene Damon. It's unusual that we have this kind of situation, and our delegation from Aldo County, representatives, well, they were shaking on this issue. They didn't know what to do because the state senator is a big landholder over there.
Better believe it.
He inherited all his land from his father, and of course, he don't want it done either.
Right.
But Gene Damon in Meridian is interested in this type of a lawsuit. He's talked to Attorney Rabb in Meridian about it.
Well, that's what I was talking about, some other people are thinking about it, not just us. Yeah, Bob?
We have another danger involved in this situation in addition to raising sales and income tax. I believe the state law sets a ceiling on the millage that county board of supervisors can levy.
For schools?
Sets a maximum.
As
For
a
schools,
maximum.
yes.
Yeah, as a maximum.
Right.
So
25
what
million.
actually happens is when a county gets up to 1 millage below the maximum, they reevaluate the property and lower the millage for a while, and then they'll ease it back up to, that
Be
level
nothing to keep
again.
from doing that in the
So
future,
you still
under
got a
new law.
situation where your taxes going up.
Oh, yeah. That can well happen, and it will happen without a doubt.
But, the homeowner's taxes always, the millage is gonna go up and down, but if that guy that owns that 90% of the county, I know in George County, Scott, International, and Masonite own between 85 and 90% of the county land. Now, a lot of people just can't believe it, but there's only 12,000 people living in the county. That's counting the babies and all. And those 12,000 people don't own those millions of acres of land. So you can go to the courthouse and research the records, and those three companies own those millions of acres of land, and they're practically getting by, $200,000 or $300,000 on several million acres of land. And you know who's paying the taxes? That 12,000 people is one that's paying the taxes.
I think what the rank and file union member don't understand is he's paying the buck of the taxes now.
That's right.
And if taxes are raised, he's still gonna pay the buck of it. Unless something is did about it to uniform.
That's right.
That's what we're really talking about. That is the problem of getting the message out to the rank and file member. There ain't no question about that,
But
Yeah, Joe?
I just like to comment on that, Claude, up in our area, the Board of Supervisors. Yeah, I know in these two counties that I primarily work in, they're putting this out, that the state AFL-CIO is possibly gonna, make your taxes go up.
Yeah, I know.
That's right.
And they can do a better job communicating, than we can with our own people.
Right.
They got the news media and so forth.
This is true.
But they're really playing this thing up right now.
Yeah, I know. Very true. I don't
Well,
think there's any question about that.
Joe and I have got a little, I mean, I agree, Weyerhaeuser owns a majority of the county probably, especially the timberland. But the biggest portion of the county is owned by our members. I mean, factory workers, they all own a little old farm, maybe 75, 100 acres. And it's gonna be their taxes that go up, because these property, I'll agree, it was assessed, mine is. I've got 40, 50 acres there that was assessed probably back in the 20s.
Right.
But, it'd tear me up if I wouldn't gripe about mine, but I'm talking about my neighbors and my other members is in the same shape that I am. And that's the reason that I've gotta take the stand that I have here today.
Would it be possible, I mean, if some local union decided they wanted to file a suit, would that be possible?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they got the money.
Any group of people that's got the money wants to hire counsel
about
and
this-
go to court.
what about this
Absolutely.
Claude,
Civil
you got
liberty
any estimation on
group?
what a cost of a suit like this would run?
No, I haven't, but, you know,
Lawyers, how much they wanna stick.
Well, I know, but
But you see, I'm
Could be
not
pretty-
asking you
pretty
to take
steep.
action to file a court suit this morning. I'm suggesting that you give me authority to sit down with some people, take a look at the situation and report back to another board meeting before we before we go to court with it. By all means, I don't think we need to just say, well, we're gonna go to court this morning, or anything like that, but what I'm telling you is that I think if we're gonna ever get any action, that it's gonna come about as a result of court action. And before we go to court, that I think we ought to explore all of these possibilities. We ought to sit down and talk with other people that's concerned about this matter. And then probably at the next board meeting, present a report to you and a recommendation on what direction to go in. If we don't intend to push something like this to the fullest extent, it appears to me you ought to take it off our program. And we've been pushing it for 12 or 14 years now by way of legislative action. And there's no question in my mind, sitting here this morning, come next January, when the school teachers descend on Jackson, the legislature's gonna come up with 40, 50 million more dollars to come up with the salaries these people deserve. And they're gonna be having to find that money somewhere, and I'll give you one guess as to where it's gonna come from if this thing is not done. And we might as well get our own members prepared for it. This is gonna be the choice, and they're gonna pay the bill just like they're paying now.
Well, Ramsey, we sit around this table and discuss ways of getting the school teacher we wanna organize. Suppose we organize, and I'm going back to Adams County and start on them, and they ask for $400 a month raise. Where they gonna get the money from if I don't pay it in taxes? We already subsidize them over $200 a month out of the county going when we reassess of more than what the state allows.
This is what I just said.
Where are we gonna get it from? We said here we wanna do this, but we don't wanna pay taxes. And the only true way to do it, I mean, the average, like me, I got what? $25,000 worth of property, and we talking about people in the millions.
This is what
Millions
I'm
of
talking
dollars.
about.
That's what I mean, that's the reason we got into it in Adams County, because Adams County is owned by about 10 people. And like he said, over in Wilkerson and Franklin County, it's owned by Georgia Pacific or, International Paper or Johns Manville. I mean, that's in our area there.
Yeah, that's all over the state.
That's the way it is.
All over
So,
the state.
You know,
I know we're gonna make
Brother
ourselves
Underwood,
unpopular when we go back home. I don't think
He'll-
there's any trouble without the Adams County legislature.
if he'll check the records in the courthouse, he'll find out that the people living in that county don't own but 10 to 15% of that land. The rest of it's owned by 3 or 4 corporations.
This is where the problem
You know,
is.
you're just driving down the road, you don't see them hundreds of thousands of acres of land that there's not a house on that them paper companies own, you know?
We don't have that kind of acreage where I live, though, that hadn't got a house on it.
Yeah, let's let Brother Sheldon have it a minute here. He's been holding his hand up for
Well,
a while here.
Claude, I've talked to my people in my area about tax evaluation. They don't even know when the hell it is, you know.
Right.
And, I against it, and, you know, and I feel that, you know, if he against it, that we should be for it.
That's pretty logical.
Thinking that's something you're thinking.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, what do you wanna do about this matter? I'd like to get it disposed of one way or the other.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't see anything wrong with the suggestion that you dropped into the hopper, namely that you confer with these other people and, maybe get a little bit better evaluation of the whole picture.
Right.
And a final decision be made at some other time. I see nothing wrong in that.
Yeah. What, you make a motion, that I think?
Yeah, I will.
I'll second.
Put that in the form of a motion.
All right.
That be done.
All right. You heard the motion? Everybody down in here?
I didn't hear it.
State your motion again, Marvin.
The motion, I don't know where I could put it in exact words, but, the secretary can, edit this just a little bit. I'll allow that privilege.
Yeah.
That, Chairman Ramsey be permitted to pursue the line of action that he mentioned, namely, that he would confer with these other people that are interested in this, matter, and that a final disposition be made at a later time as far as the court procedures. Is that pretty well what?
Right, this is it. What I have in mind, I wanna take a look at the situation in Harrison County, the lawsuit was mentioned. See what steps involved.
Oh, I'd like to make one suggestion, that we need to double check and make sure, before we get involved in this thing too deep, we need to have someone to check the law about, you know, he was talking about this part of that law lets these people off the hook on this cut over land and this type thing. We need to make sure before we file a suit, or get too far, that there's not something that's gonna let these big paper companies off the hook. I bet you they got something in that law, if you do this, they still get off the damn hook. So this has got to be very.
Let's get the motion, see if we can get this motion disposed of.
Okay.
This is a very complicated subject. We can frankly spend all morning here on it and not come to a lot. Today, the next move will be to take care of those people you're talking about, and you're gonna hear more about this subject probably in the next session of the legislature. Take care of these kinds of situations. But the motion is that you authorize me to investigate this matter further with other groups and bring a report back to a future board meeting for final determination. That's really what you said. So let's act on that motion. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I second it.
Yeah, Kelly seconded. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Well, let's see. The next item of business. I want to talk to you a few minutes about something that I think we need to do in terms of our legislative program. You know, from time to time, we've updated our program, and we've had printed brochures fixed up on a few occasions, which I think serves a very definite purpose. I'm of the opinion that it's time for us to revise our program and update it, and then print up another brochure similar to the one we fixed up, I think it was in '68. You remember we had the series of workshops around the state in the fall. We really should have had a brochure with our program, attractive brochure to have passed out in those meetings. I guess probably the best thing to do is to set up a committee here of the board to take a look at our program. We've got this kind of a situation. Our convention's acted on several situations from time to time. Our board has acted a couple of times on specific items. What we need to do, I think, is sit down and take a look at all those things and try to put them in the form of another brochure. We've made a lot of progress. I was looking at some of these things that we've acted on in the past. You'd be surprised at the number of things we've accomplished since 1961, especially when that program progress was adopted. Many of them come about the result of court action, some by result of legislative action, you know. But I really think we need to update that legislative program and to put it in a printed form again. What's the thinking of the board on this?
I think it'd be a good idea.
You got any ideas about a committee maybe to review this thing? You wanna leave this up to Tom and me and let us
Leave
put
that
it
up
all
to y'all,
together,
but I
bring
think
it
we
to
got,
another meeting?
we got a lot of new board members and new people in the labor movement don't even know what the program of progress was or what the
Right.
present legislative goals are.
Right. And bring that out, probably at the next meeting and, review it. If we got any items that maybe you think ought to be added, done it at that time, do it at that time, you think that's the best approach?
I
well-
think, Brother Clark, this ought to be done by the time we have our convention though,
Right,
before we have our convention.
This
It's gonna
is
be a lot
really-
of work to do, I mean,
right.
that's gonna put a lot of burden on you if you don't have some help from somebody, I mean, along the road.
We might ought to put this in the hands of the executive committee and, allow us some time to go to the press with it. I agree with you. I think it'd be good to have that brochure ready for distribution at the next convention.
Well, Reed, I'm saying, we're gonna have to get more people involved, just like this taxation situation.
Right.
I don't know how many of these people are active in their local community, on community affairs, taxation, or go to the board of supervisors having a meeting, or whatever it is. I mean, you're gonna have to get involved to know what's really going on and do some research on this land like he's talking about here. What really is going on, do some research, and get
Right.
more people involved, and let them carry it back to their local areas.
Yeah.
Was my thinking, I mean, you and Tom can do it, but you're gonna have a lot of work to do you by
Well,
yourself.
what I was thinking about doing, of course, was
You get an outline of it.
what I was thinking about is researching our convention proceedings. Now, I got one situation in mind, to be specific. If you remember at the Gulf Coast Convention, we adopted a resolution on court reform, spelled it out in a resolution. Well, that does not appear on our printed brochure. That should be included in our legislative program. We made some improvements in workmen's compensation and unemployment insurance since that brochure was printed. We've already reached objectives on, spelled out in that brochure, but there's room for great more improvement in both areas. We should update those areas. And those items that's in our program that haven't yet received action should be brought forward. This is what I'm really talking about. I don't know how we're gonna get more input into this if we don't get it through this group here, You're more or less a representative group. If we've got problems out there, items out there that our members are concerned about, the only way I know we can handle that is through you, But I really think that perhaps we need to have a committee, maybe this matter ought to be put in the hands of the executive committee to see. We'll have to have a board meeting before the convention. I don't believe, though, that we'd have time to go to print with that thing if we brought it before a full meeting of the committee, of the board, prior to that convention. We're gonna have to allow the printer about 2 or 3 weeks to put this thing in print.
True.
If you wait for the board meeting prior to the convention, then it won't be ready.
But I think those legislative conferences we had in these central body areas are probably one of the smartest things that
Well-
we've ever done. I think it was the best money we ever spent. It showed up during the session of the legislature, I can tell you that. And I think we need to think in terms of do more of this. And when we do this, we ought to have an attractive program to present to the legislators in these meetings. This is really what I've got in mind.
Well, I strongly feel that whatever revamping of our legislative goals we're gonna do should be ready for the convention, because after the convention, there'll be elections at the convention, and the same board won't be constituted thereafter, and it ought to be sort of as a report of the old board to the convention, in my opinion.
All right, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. This would probably be the most expedient way. Tom and I will try to research and get everything that we've acted on already. Get that together. We'll call a meeting of the executive committee, type the thing up and mail it out to each individual board member. let you review it, then let you send in your approval or disapproval along with any other recommendations. We can do it this way in the absence of a full board.
I offer that as a motion. Don't you?
Second.
I'll second.
I think it will be ready for the convention.
That will be the most expedient way of doing it. All right, we have any more discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, so ordered. Bob, let's see, we got Bob, Jim, and Russell, Marvin here. Jack Schaefer's the only one that's not here. What I want to meet with the four of you after we're done and see if we can get together on a time and we can get back together.
Let me ask you one point of information before we get away from this. Can you enlighten me anything on this veterans and old people's taxes that they enacted in?
Homestead Exemption Act?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing that the legislature did that's will be helpful to the senior citizens that own homes. Senior citizens 65 and over and crippled, disabled veterans, what have you, also included. Under this particular act, the first $5,000 on property homestead exemption, what it amounts to, will be exempt, all taxes on the
So
first
you
$5,000.
got already have the 5,000 exemption as homestead exemption, is that 5,000 in addition to?
No, that's just the
Just
first
that-
$5,000, all taxes will be exempt.
Instead of just 5,000.
Yeah.
Well, does this veteran have to be in the active
No,
war?
he's got to be disabled veterans.
Well,
Disabled.
I'm talking about, suppose he come disabled after he was, I'd say,
You mean he got hurt after he left service?
local union was working in the plant, he lost both legs or both
Oh, I'm
hands.
not real sure about that individual now.
I think the only thing is, it would be defined as to whether his disability would be service connected or
Yeah.
non-service
Well,
connected.
that's right, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking the question.
Frankly, I'm gonna have to get some answers to questions like this myself. I'm not real sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
either, I haven't been able to talk
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
Brown or anybody since they got home. Is he-
Right. Well, this is one of the things that I'm not real sure what we've got. I guess I did mention to you, I'm sure in the report I did, I know that we finally got the unemployment insurance bill through, it's $60 maximum. If you remember, the House acted early on this one, got it to the Senate, and the Senate amended it, went back to the House, and the House refused to accept the Senate amendment, it went in conference. And it wasn't until the closing days of the session, the last few weeks, the last couple of weeks, that we finally got a vote on that bill. The conference finally cut out the Senate amendment and passed the House version of the bill. So as of July 1 of this year, maximum unemployment insurance will go up to $60. The formula in the act, which is based on 50% of the state's average wage, will now be 55% of the state's average wage, which should help that low wage individual, medium income individual some. It's not everything we wanted in this act, but I guess $60 is better than $49 for those people that are out of work. I think that this again is one of the items we want to update on that program we're talking about, right?
Right.
Now, I'm sure that all of you are aware of the fact, I mentioned this in that last report, that workmen's compensation benefits also go up July 1 of this year as a result of action of the previous session in 72, I believe it was.
That's 63.
Goes up another $7 to $63, right. That's a weekly benefit.
Same date.
Same day, July 1, they both go up the same day.
Of course, you're
Right.
speaking maximums in both instances.
Maximums in both cases, which don't mean everybody gets the
Right.
maximum. Right.
Well, you would work.
I understand that, but I'm not sure.
Workman's comp 63,
Yeah, it's based on
unemployment
earnings.
60.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't be down as low as 25 or 30.
Yeah, that's not too
I
bad.
don't think we have anybody that don't draw much.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you, Ken.
Yeah, right.
We had,
Industry.
we had our international treasurer at our progress meeting, known as Mr. Union from New York.
Van Arsdale?
Harry Van Arsdale.
Yeah.
And it was brought out in that meeting, the state of Alabama, of course, their unemployment is up to $75 a week.
Right.
And they have no waiting period.
Right.
And, this is something that we should be interested in at the next session of the legislature, if we can do it this way. And, it's not
Right.
even that way in New York. He said they're gonna try to improve it in New York.
Except in Alabama, unless they change it, the employee has to pay part of it out of his paycheck every week.
Not unemployment.
Yes, they do, unless they've changed the law. I used to represent locals in Alabama. There's a contribution made by the employee to the unemployment benefits
Well,
in the
you
state of
might
Alabama.
Might be worth it if you start growing it without
Yeah,
waiting
they're not
period.
drinking on.
I'd rather have it where they didn't have to contribute, Brother Tucker, but Alabama did it, it's not all that much. But they made a contribution,
Drink
their
nothing
paycheck.
yesterday,
I'm not
we're
drinking on
thirsty,
that
see?
much.
State
I
law
don't
was
want
written
to
that
eat.
way.
Should glad I'm.
Problem there last time.
You know, it's a sad state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen.
Supplemental unemployment.
You know, it's almost unbelievable, the problems and the hard work you have to put into doing something in both these areas, unemployment, insurance, and workman's compensation. And, well, Tom and Cal and everybody else been around the office very much can tell you that I have spent untold hours on, and just these two areas. I wear out two pair of shoes literally during every session of the legislature, primarily in these two areas. I've come to this conclusion that if we're going to make any significant progress, we're going to have federal standards. It's going to have to be done by the Congress of the United States in both areas, minimum federal standards. This is the AFL-CIO position, and I've come to the conclusion that that's about the only way we're going to ever really get it where it ought to be. I see a lot of head shaking. I guess everybody's having experience in this.
I'd bring up that we're trying to help a little when we negotiate contracts by trying to negotiate supplemental unemployment and workman's compensation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're taking us out of our package and we're paying for it twice.
Right, that's what it amounts to.
That's
You
exactly
get less
what it
money when
amounts
you
to.
do that.
That's exactly right. But at least
Swap it
it'll
one for the other.
stop the Manufacturers Association from coming down here.
All of our locals
lobbying
have
so
some
much.
programs though now. Anywhere from 65 to 80%.
It'll put some pressure on members of the Manufacturers Association and stop them from coming down here trying to stop it from being raised.
Well, that's where the problem is. That's where the problem is. Now, well, we're gonna get the committee together and we'll try to get to work on all these things and the unemployment insurance and the workman's compensation, the doctor's choice problem, and the fact that we got women that take a leave of absence for pregnancy, they come back to work, they've had a layoff, there's no job for them. They go down and apply for unemployment insurance.
They're disallowed.
And they're disallowed.
Right.
Now, this is another area that's not right, and before we start allowing retired people from military drawing unemployment as well as a pension, which that Senate amendment did, then I think we ought to think about these women that's in this category before we get to there. And this is what
There's
we're
another
talking about
bad thing in
updating the
that.
program.
Next time my wife gets pregnant though, I'm gonna put in for that pregnancy leave. They ain't gonna discriminate against me.
They got another bad thing in that unemployment law. We went all the way to the state Supreme Court and spent an awful lot of money once trying to rectify it, and that is if you happen to have a plant that's on vacation, even though some of the people may not have been there long enough to collect, they're still denied their unemployment. Because the unemployment takes the position that it's a vacation period for the plant. If that particular individual don't get it, it's just tough.
Yeah.
We spent about $10,000 trying to beat them on that one. We beat them in the circuit courts,
You mean-
but the
you
state
mean-
Supreme Court reversed it.
You mean tell me if a woman gets laid off, you know, she's out on a leave, medical leave, and then she comes back, and then she's laid off because her place in the seniority has been laid off, she can't draw unemployment?
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
If she worked one day, she could draw it.
Yeah.
You know, she has to work another quarter before she qualifies.
Because she's got no earnings during the period she's on maternity leave, see?
Oh, it all depends on how long she taken off. If she's off a
Right.
week, it'd be different.
Yeah.
Well, he said maternity.
Hey,
Ordinary
we've had
medical
some of-
leave usually
we've
don't
had some-
disallow 'em, but.
I tell you, we've had some try to get back in the shipyard, they'd be gone about 2 days and have the baby, and about 2 days after they got out of the hospital, they was back down, in less than 2 weeks, they was back down and knocking on the door. And
Well,
matter of
they
fact,
exercise
matter of
of
fact,
that.
EEO made them put some of them to work too.
Man, we bad off to work, don't we?
I'll tell you
Well,
another
I tell you
thing.
what, Kate that teaches school over there, my wife at Perk, she had hers on the, Christmas holidays, never missed a day.
Tell you another
But it
thing
just wasn't the
unemployment
right
does that I
time.
don't think's fair, and we fought that one too, to no success. If you happen to be laid off from a plant during the week when a holiday occurs and the company under labor contract owes you that holiday, the unemployment will deduct it from your unemployment check, so in effect you lose your holiday.
Why are we on this? I mean, we done.
That's
took
not
care of
right.
all
It
this.
knocks out a negotiated
Oh, we got
holiday.
several other items yet.
One thing, when you're updating this for you and Mr. Tom.
You're gonna be on this committee.
I just, well, you can think about this, I just come from Washington, I attended a meeting up there for about a week on the OSHA and all these other programs. Have we ever thought about getting into safety and health and the factory workers for the state? I mean, have we stayed away from that thing? Right now, we have a chemical being used in a lot of plants, specifically called vinyl chloride and the plastic in it. Any of y'all read about this thing? It's a very
Talking to Joe
dangerous-
Kramer about it the other day, I did first news I had ever.
You didn't think-
Of course, OSHA
No,
takes
it-
care of that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the federal occupational act does.
Can't make plastic without it though.
Well, let's see if we can move on. We got several items yet,
Get on
and
to it, man.
maybe a little sooner the way we're moving.
I don't know about these things.
I know we got a bunch of.
We need to set up some committees to draft a few resolutions. If, it's all right with you, I'll just write all of you on the committee assignments on these resolutions and ask you to go to work on them, if that's all right with you. We'll need a good resolution on the union label, you know, things, kind of standard resolutions. We'll be working on in some of these other areas on resolutions ourselves, and I think perhaps we're gonna need to call another board meeting sometime over in the latter part of the summer, in addition to one just prior to the next convention, so keep all these things in mind. If any of you got any matters that you think ought to be considered by the convention by way of resolution, I'd suggest you go to work on them right away. Get them prepared, give us time to get them ready for that convention. All of you aware of the fact that we've got a special committee set up to review the Constitution. We had Jones Fitzhugh out one of our board meetings on that, and we're going to get in. Yes, Bob?
By the way, while you're on that, Joan Fitzhugh told me to, ask the board to, give him, in writing a possible, their position on the recommendation that he made to the board before.
Yeah.
Or either give him some guidelines as to what they want in the Constitution to change it, or if not, relieve him of the responsibility of the chairman of the committee.
Relieve him of it?
He needs something to work for.
All right, that's understandable.
I
Of course,
don't blame him,
his,
he'd get a job.
He was at the meeting, I thought he
Yeah.
understood our position.
You know, before we get in this dialogue thing, Todd, you was talking about resolutions, I guess a lot of people wondering, you know, what type resolutions have been adopted. Do you have a speakers bureau set up, state AFL-CIO speaking bureau? We get more and more. I noticed Joe was talking about, he was one of the first to go into high school in North Mississippi, and I've spent a whole day at Gulfport East High School one day just prior to that, and I understand that there's more and more people trying to get people to come to junior colleges and to the high schools.
right.
And I thought maybe it might
Well,
be a good.
we've had a speakers bureau that, everybody on the board was, their names were submitted to be a member of it, to receive information from time to time from the Department of Education, the AFL-CIO Department of Education.
They sent me a whole.
How many of you,
folder that thick.
have they, are they keeping you updated with that?
Yeah,
stuff?
but I've got a folder that thick, and about every 2 or 3 months they send me another batch.
I don't
haven't
reckon
been
I
added
ever
to that
got any.
list. I haven't
Well,
got any of it. I
well,
reckon
Yeah, I got a
Whole
All
big
right.
old binder.
This is very pertinent here. I think it's good you bring it up, Russell. Let's see how many new board members we got that's, are not been listed on that speakers bureau. Hold up your hand.
Hold up your hand, dog.
See,
They
that's
like
not,
got the information on
that's
it.
not receiving,
Apparently I'm not.
don't have the manuals,
Apparently most of the new ones don't
most
have.
of the new ones.
I don't have.
All right, then what,
Herbert said he didn't have one.
you're not getting the material?
I never has got.
I didn't see all those hands now.
Let's let Callan get the names of those people present that have not been receiving the manuals and updating
Well,
on.
just about everybody, it looks like to me. You
Maybe the best thing for me to do is just write him and tell him that I'd like for him to send me
Ain't but two or three. that's
sufficient number of manuals for each member of the board.
If they don't put you on the mailing list, so you
Or
don't
just
get the
submit
updates.
everybody-
They update that stuff
They
about every
update it
2 or
every
3
so
months,
often,
yeah.
And
You have to pull out old pages,
and
put
you
in
have to
new
pull
pages.
out, it tells you to pull out so many old
Right.
pages and put in so many new pages.
Right, well, this is what I was talking about, I was trying to find out how many of you, were receiving that material to keep it updated.
I'm getting it.
They're saying some of them never had it to start with,
Yeah.
Claude. They
I
never
never
got the
have.
original manual,
I never got any.
much less the
Didn't we-
update.
How long ago has it been since it started?
It was started about a year and a half ago.
I
in
say, I've been on this thing about 3-4 years now, and
You
I
should
never
be
got
getting-
one.
But the ones that was turned in, Claude, was just the ones that, you.
Volunteered?
Volunteered.
That's what it was.
It was just the
I
ones
don't
that the
remember
board.
being discussed at any board meeting, do you?
Yeah, I do, way back.
Claude mailed out a letter to all
So
board
it's probably prior to your time.
Must have been.
Let's see how did this really happen.
We got a letter on it, Claude, and we had, if we was willing to be listed on the speakers
Yeah.
bureau, we had to fill out
Fill out a
information
thing
about
and send-
ourselves and send it
send
back
it
to
back.
you, which
That-
we did.
And those of you that wanted to serve on
Right.
it,
Yeah.
sent that in.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe I filled out one of those things.
And if
but I
nobody
never did.
filled it out, then of course they never got it, but.
Let me ask you, just how is this thing set up though? Do you have certain people in an area that you submit the names to the school systems and tell them these people are available to come into your classroom and speak, or how do these people find out who to contact?
Well, the
This
national office is supposed to let,
Refer any
these people
request.
know who are members of the Speakers Bureau in Mississippi. Now, if you
Right.
think we ought to have a Speakers Bureau of this organization, and that we should notify the people in the schools and all who are members of that Speakers Bureau, and that they want to make, want somebody to make an appearance, to contact this person, then I'll accept that kind of a motion. That's not the way it's being done now. It's being done through the Washington office.
Right, they
There's a lot of.
get the request and
Mm.
refer it
Right.
back.
Well, see, most of these school teachers don't know the right George
Yeah,
meaning
no.
to get a speaker.
Well,
And
I'd
they
like
don't-
I'd like to make that
Yeah.
motion, that we take it up here in the state level.
that
We
we
need
set
to
up
get
our
They
own
run-
Speakers
Yeah.
Bureau,
Right, and
Right.
run it.
and that we notify the schools and what have you about the Bureau and who's
Right.
available, and that we notify the Department of Education, put everybody on the mailing list to receive that information. If you're gonna be on
What
the
a-
Speakers Bureau, you're gonna have to
Have
have
to
access
get that
to this
information, if you don't,
Yeah.
you'll be in bad shape.
Because you're liable to walk in someday and not be, well equipped to answer some questions.
Yeah.
Those of you never
Well-
been before one of these groups, I'd suggest that you be ready.
Right.
because
You
there's a lot of
doggone
kids
right.
out there.
I got off into that, but I had the material. I got an invitation to Southern. I guess I'm one of the few labor leaders that spoke on that campus without serious opposition from the president. But I wound up speaking to a business administration class, and man, they asked me some questions that just twisted all kinds of knots. Of course, they was on the other side of the fence, and they was baiting me more than anything else. But
Let's get that motion of yours,
I
Kelly.
second.
or Howard.
Howard made
You
the
wanna
motion,
make it,
I'll
Howard?
second.
Yeah, I made the motion.
Motion is that we establish a Speakers Bureau.
for compulsory arbitration.
That the Mississippi AFL-CIO establish a Speakers Bureau consisting of the board members of the organization, and that we request of the Department of Education that they supply them with the manual and keep it updated. Is that the motion?
Yeah, basically, what I had in mind too, Claude, was say like,
Second, right?
right, is say that, you know, we got people in each district, you know, each section of the country, but maybe Underwood might want to go back at his local and say, okay, I want this group of people, you know, he won't be able to go all the time. I get this group of people, And as I get these invitations to come in and speak, he'll assign different people to go in the days maybe he can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be more than one person, because
Well, we'll have the whole board on.
just in the Gulf Coast area, see, I'd have to have some people to help me, because I can get a flock of them, and people organizing unions down in the school teachers, when they get this notice, they're gonna be bringing us over to speak to them, see.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you say, some of those kids, you better be prepared, because I had 4 classes, 55-minute classes, and I was mentally and physically exhausted from standing up. I feel sorry for those classroom teachers after one 4-hour session, man.
Well, unfortunately, all requests will come at the same time. What most of the schools do, when they reach a point in the social studies or history book that covers labor, then that day and that week they want a speaker.
That's right.
But maybe 50 other schools, it's to that chapter that same day, so it's not a year-round thing.
No.
But they want a labor speaker when they're on that particular issue in the books, you know. That's what I've found.
Right. Well, you might as well get set for a lot of speaking engagements. You might as well get set to answer some real pertinent questions when you start making these appearances. I've had quite a bit of experience at it myself. And another thing you might as well get set for, if you get an invitation to a college campus, is that some of these professors will proceed to let you teach their class all day. Flavors Hutchison up in your town of Tupelo, who was on the staff at Mississippi State, went over at his invitation here a couple of years ago, and that joker had me slated to speak to class after class, and I finally come to the conclusion what he was doing was letting me relieve him for a day.
What it amounts to.
Do you know Flavors, Joe?
Yeah.
Right.
You know him?
Some pointed
Yes,
questions.
If you don't know him, I suggest you go see him. I've communicated with him and told him we're going to probably have something going in the area. I'd suggest that the two of y'all go visit with him.
We've
See,
talked with him several times.
The reason I'd like for us to get involved in the speaking of these high school students, is tell them about, you know, the advantage of maybe taking up in some of the vocational things. And also tell them, you know, about your different apprenticeship programs and job opportunities and what the labor movement's doing in general to help place young kids on better paying jobs. And, you know, when they come out of that plant, it's kind of tough to sign some of those people up that's never heard anything from a classroom teacher except, you know, the union causes strikes, you know, you shouldn't join them. I think it'd do a lot of good as far as organizing, you know, over the years.
Right. Yeah, pay off the future.
Right.
Well, let's see if we can move on. We got several other items.
Better vote on it.
Yeah, right. We hadn't voted on the motion, right. But we're ready to vote on that motion to set up the Speakers Bureau. All in favor of the motion, they indicate it by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Well,
carries.
before we get away from this resolution thing, I'd like to ask a question. How many of the different internationals that's represented here, when they set up a new local union, I heard this all day yesterday, how many of them try to get it in their bylaws that they have to affiliate with the state and central bodies? I mean, is that, I know we do.
Yeah.
When we set up a local union, we put it in the first bylaws, then there's no problem.
Well,
Every local we've got in the state is affiliated, he has to be.
right.
Well, it's in
That's a
our
good-
international bylaw.
Well, it is now.
Well, most, that's the thing about it. We got several internationals that have it in their
in our
constitution. Yours is one. IBEW, I think, is one.
Steelworkers has it.
Steelworkers probably have it. Unfortunately, some of them that's got it don't enforce it.
Yeah.
That's
We don't write into our constitution, but we don't have no locals that's out. I see
Yeah,
that
right.
person.
Well,
We
why
tried to
don't
get
we-
it in ours at the last convention, but it was voted down.
It's in international.
Why don't we try to get somebody to put in a resolution for the next convention that we try to do this, and every new local is set up, even if they don't have it in their constitution, let's encourage them to
I believe we're.
write it in the first bylaw.
Mr. Underwood, I'm gonna now appoint you as chairman of the committee
Oh.
to draft a resolution on affiliation.
That's what you get.
Lay it everybody.
Boy, when you open your mouth, you get it stuck, don't you?
Well, we gotta have a resolution.
Well-
You interested in the subject, go to work on the resolution.
Well, see, Underwood, you're not very smart. I was gonna draft a resolution from the state council machinists to adopt the speakers bureau and bring it to the convention, try to get it passed upon by the AFL-CIO, so we just take care of that. I don't have to write a resolution today, you know? Hey, I think, I think this is what we really need, I don't know if we need a lengthy resolution, I think we need to probably call to come or, meet with Steve Williams and people running the IUD program and make sure that they make this part of their program, to make sure that this goes in the bylaws,
Well, I don't believe Steve would work that far in the program. I mean, once he gets it organized, that's it. He turns it over to the representative from the international, and he'll have to do with the writing of bylaws and.
Now, I know that, I was talking about putting something in the
notes he
package,
gave
notes,
to him.
put a
That's
big,
what I was bringing up yesterday.
put this resolution, maybe a copy of this resolution in from
Well, that
the
wouldn't be,
Mississippi
that'd be
AFL-CIO.
okay, yeah.
Oh, no, I know he's not gonna get in internal politics, he told him that yesterday, didn't he? Ooh.
I'll get back to it, Jay.
Well, let me ask you, do you want me to order some coffee? You wanna go ahead and try to get through and then?
Let's get through.
Personally, I'd like to finish up, because I've got a meeting tonight.
Right.
I got a long way to go. Monday.
Can we start again?
Come on, fellas.
Got a couple of more items, we'll try to get this through as fast as we can. I know some of you wanna get on the road. We got, one item listed down there, financial situation and building study. Like to kinda just hurriedly review with you the financial situation. Talk about the need for a dues increase at the next convention. Have a discussion on it. Present time, we're in fairly good shape as far as being financially stable. But according to the best figures I can come up with, our income above expenses is running a little better than $2,000 a year. It's increased by about $2,000. Present time, there's $24,068 in the general fund, $5,700 in our legislative fund, $1,400 in the coat fund. That's the assets we have in the bank. The subsidy we get from the AFL-CIO is up for consideration again as of the 1st of next month. I wrote Stanton Smith this past week asking them to renew that subsidy. I talked the matter over with him on the phone and told him that I felt that if they were considering reducing or cutting it out, I'd like them to consider sending at least $300 a month more in. Now we have, the workload has increased in the office considerably. We've been working a third girl quite a bit of the time, and I think that we're going to have to, matter of necessity, consider in the very near future putting on another full-time girl, which is going to mean additional expense. And with the cost of the situation being what it is, I don't have to tell you people, that it appears to me that unless this organization grows a lot faster than it is now, that we're going to be forced to consider a dues increase at this next convention if we expect to have enough money to do some things that's got to be done. That's roughly the situation. I was advised just yesterday, some of you might have been at the Louisiana convention, that they increased their dues from 45 cents to 55 cents this last convention. So if you think another nickel is too much, you might want to take a look if I have time on that. I'm serious about the matter of the dues thing. You know, I think we ought to have a little discussion here this morning while we got you together.
Let me ask you, how long has the 20 cents been on?
20 cents has been on since 1962, I think.
That's a long time without a raise, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the growth of the organization has pretty well took care of the additional expense, in the years in the past, and I think we ought to think about another situation too. I think it's gonna be necessary for the organization to put on some additional staff people sometime in the near future, if not full-time people, some part-time people. We've been having to ask Brother Woodson to do some work for us from time to time. We've asked one or two more of you to do some work from time to time. I think this is something that, you might well be thinking about. And here's the situation. If we don't do it at this convention, it'll be 2 years off before we can do it again. So if we get in real trouble here in the next 2 years, how do we deal with it, you know? Let's have a little discussion on that, Brother Davis.
Claude, how does this 20 cents compare with some of the other southern states?
We are,
Besides Louisiana?
yeah.
You know, you give us this information that.
We had that information at the last board meeting, I believe, Joe, but if my memory serves me right, we are right kind of in the middle there, kind of an average, I think. We're not too high compared to some of them, and we're not too much lower than some of them, except Louisiana. Huh? Affiliation, right. Of course, the affiliation thing, you've got the standings, we just passed them out, you might want to take a look at that. The answer, of course, to many of our financial problems is full affiliation.
Yeah, I know we got a problem with IBEW local in Pascagoula, just looking at this number, and it's probably just the fact that nobody's never talked to Shoemaker, because I believe he would pay on the full membership. His membership, 12 to 1,600 people, he's paying on 400, and I bet you if you check the book, they've been writing a standard 400 checks for 10 years, you know?
That is the number one problem, the affiliation thing, but the affiliation has been improving, and the drug program, believe it or not, that discount drug program has increased our affiliation, where we've had a number of locals not paying on their full membership in order to get enough cards for everybody. They've had to increase their affiliation. We're not sending them the cards unless they do. Brother Woodson wanted the floor.
Well, Claude, I wanted to mention in considering this, not only are we talking about the need of maybe some improvement in the works of the labor movement, but let's look at what we've had in increase in cost since 1962.
Yeah.
And I imagine some of you now who are filling out your expense vouchers for 10 cents a mile find it pretty difficult at the price of gas to drive your car for 10 cents a mile. And I think most of the internationals, some of them I know have made an increase in mileage to 12 cents, 12, 15 cents. It's just about, it's just about necessary, not even aside from other things, the increased cost in gasoline, the cost of just about everything else, paper. Everything has gone up tremendously since 1962. Of course, I think that we need to take a real serious look at it.
Yeah, what I'm thinking now is a nickel, is that enough? You know, you're getting this thing.
Well, I just throwed out a nickel. I threw that out for discussion purposes.
Well,
What do you got, 40,000, a nickel be 2,000?
46,000, according to what they just laid on the table.
If they all pay up, we'd have somewhere around between 45 and 46. Right now, it's a little better than 42.
Oh, is it 42?
42 that's in good shape.
Well, I just,
That's total, that's not one.
That's total, and there's a couple of thousand.
3,000 out of in arrears.
42,675 is what the
I was
figure
just
is.
using 40,000 as a base figure,
That's,
you know, that'd be an increase of $2,000 a month, a nickel, right?
well, let me
That's
throw
reasonable.
something at you in connection with this. Now, in years in the past, at a convention prior to an election year, we usually introduce and get adopted a resolution asking local unions to come through with a buck a member to help finance legislative campaigns. only a small percent of the affiliated local unions come through with that dollar. That is the money that we've been able to use in helping finance campaigns. And I'm gonna be as frank and honest with you as I know how about this situation. If we're gonna move some bad members of that legislature and keep some of the better members of the legislature, then we might as well face up to the fact that we're gonna have to help finance some campaigns. And we're talking about $25,000 to $50,000 that we need in that election next fall. You know, next year we'll get around to it. We have been fairly successful in years in the past and calling upon our different international unions for financial help. I think we just about went to that well about the last time we can go. Most people think we ought to be able to finance our own operation now. That's one of the things. The other thing, of course, is this increased cost. Mailing has become a real major factor in this operation. It costs the devil out of us to now do a mailing at 10 cents a letter. You see, and that thing is eating us up. That's just one other item. You know what I'm getting at? The thing that I'm concerned about is if we don't do something in terms of trying to get some more revenue at this convention, can we afford to go 2 years without it? That's the thing that I'm really concerned about, and that's the reason I wanted to bring it up here for discussion this morning.
I'm not a board member, but could I say something?
Yes, sir. We welcome Brother Smithhart to the meeting.
I heard you talking about helping the office help. My way of thinking is the council needs another full-time person to take some of the load. Now, you can't do everything, Tom can't do everything called upon to do.
Right.
This council needs another full-time person working in it. Well, I don't know where you want, what tie you want to give to, where you want to be elected or appointed or what, it don't matter, but they need to have someone. It's educational, political, or something to work in this arena, and you need some help over in the legislature. That's every year. There's no way for one man to work in that legislature unless you've been over there to work in the Senate and the House. They're on two different ends to keep up with what's going on. It's just impossible to do. And in fact,
I'm glad you're here today and telling them.
In fact, the business, this council, at these sessions, we ought to have 4 guys over there, full time, nothing but working in with these legislatures, take their finger on it. Now, I hadn't worked too much over there, but I do know a little bit about it. I know what's going on, and this is going to take a little money to do that. But you do need another full-time guy, where he's elected or appointed or what it is, to do some of this, set up educational conferences, contact legislators over the state, various things. And how much money that's going to take, I don't know, but I don't think 5 cents will do it. Now, you talk about $50,000
for election.
That's right. That's approximately that's $1 a member on what you have here, and you're gonna come up $5,000 short then.
Yeah.
And if you raise it a nickel, you won't even do that part of it. So this is something to think about. Do it. Now I've been in Louisiana. They got a good operation. Ain't no way you can catch up with them when you walk in their office down there. Look, they got lines of secretaries and they doing everything down there. I think they got it all computerized, All they got to do is punch a button, and it works.
Right.
It's pretty well set up, and they, as far as the labor movement in Louisiana, that's the dominant factor over there. You might say they control the political arena in Louisiana.
No doubt about it.
And we could do the same thing in this state here because it's changed. If we just get out, but we can't do it without some money. You got to have some money.
That's about as well said as I could say.
And of course, I know our local unions, you got them in there, they bitch and moan about it, but hell, you just got to face reality. You can't, just like you can't drive that car on 10 cents a mile, hell, you just well park and get you a bicycle. You're going in the hole.
Well, I ain't never heard a word of griping out of our local union about what we pay the state council.
Well, what, wouldn't it,
If we can't look out after Mississippi, we might as well quit.
wouldn't it help if, all the locals would update the membership, update the, and, make some sort of
James,
survey
You've got
on
the-
each,
I think we have
affiliated
trouble
local.
needing more money, I'm just
And,
saying, I'm not saying that.
Well, like, for instance, we paying on 200 members, but that's ever since
Some
we
of them can't
started.
be the way it is and have
Yeah,
more.
when are you gonna get on Wilson Avenue to pay on all these damn members?
And we ain't gonna do that, you got to make it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
It ain't mandatory.
We pay
Yeah,
our
yeah.
dues on the same thing we pay per capita to our international.
Well, we
We pay
paying
ours
what we've
based
been
on how
paying.
many members pays in each month.
Well, let's
I
see,
don't know how Maryland pays.
let's see, James, let's talk about your situation.
Well, Claude, I've been sitting here silent, 'cause I
the-
hate to be the one
The
to.
people you represent will probably be where the major problem is, so let's get your views
I hate to
on
be
this
the
matter.
one to always seem to be in opposition to what you're trying to do, and we're not opposed to progress, we never have been, we've been a part of it whenever and where we could. But there's some of my locals that can't pay the present per capita, I'm having to pick it up out of my office now. It's all paid out of my office, but I'm having to subsidize them as well as send the council their money right now on some of my smaller locals. We got locals, ain't got 50 people. And, I don't think I could go to them with a dues increase, and it might take that. I think I'd have a hell of a problem with my organization to pay additional money at this time.
Is all of your locals pay the same amount of
They
dues?
all pay the same amount of dues, yeah.
And he
whether
does
1,000
pay on
or
all his
50,
members,
yeah.
I think everybody ought to know that, amalgamated.
We always
That's
have,
what I
and then
always
we
say
will,
on
as long as we got
membership.
money to meet it.
I tell you what we done in our local, and some of it might be good if some of you tried it in yours. We got smart a while back, a little smarter, we didn't get smart. I don't want anybody's miss. But, we put it in the bylaws that, the 1st of January of each year, that the union dues would be 2 hours per month times the journeyman rate. If the journeyman rate is $5 an hour, the dues is $10 a month, and if we get them $1 an hour between now and January, the dues automatically goes up January $2 a month.
That's
So-
fine, except in the industrial union, you got about 500 different rates of pay, and you can't do it that way.
Well,
You ain't got no journeyman rate as such.
Ours goes up 2 cents per month for each general wage increase that you receive.
Well, you can do it, you can do it, but then you're putting a bigger burden on some people than you are others.
And we don't have no trouble with checkoff.
We have checkoff too.
We've got ours as steel workers set up.
We
It's,
pay 5
with a
cents.
flat $5 or 2 hours pay, whichever's most.
To amend it, to raise the dues in my organization, you gotta amend your constitution and bylaws. You gotta do it in every local union.
That's right. That's the reason we put it, this automatic thing in the bylaws, where it automatically goes up, and then you don't get the pinch put on
Well,
you.
ours automatically goes up anytime you get a raise, you do.
That's the way ours is.
That's the way
If
it
you get a
should
raise,
be.
it goes up.
If you're drawing, if you're
That
drawing
may be the
$7
best
an
remedy.
hour, you pay
We don't do it that way.
Don't get me wrong,
We just done
most
that at
of
the
ours
last
is,
convention.
is all right, but I would like to say,
10 years.
I got one local that's paying here, and I know they paying on all their members, and, I checked on and I'm not going into detail, but I checked on their financial status last month, and they have got $29 going into their treasury per month. $29 is all that goes in there. One arbitration case would wipe them out right now. If, all I'm saying is that I am for, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking against raising the dues and everything, but I think we ought to look at the thing, if we could get more people in it, get the ones to pay on what they got and everything else and not raise it so much. And if you raise it too much, you're gonna run somebody out. Maybe not because they don't believe in it, it's just because they can't afford it. And, I don't think we ought to try to run anybody out. I think we need everybody in, and, don't
We
get me
got
wrong, I
another
think-
proposition
Well,
that.
let's see if we can't get one at a time.
Let
here
me,
now.
Claude,
Let's,
if you would,
let
just
Brother
hear me for a
Jackson
minute.
have it, and then I'll give each one an opportunity.
It's no question that the rag workers has always been the lowest paid in the nation. I guess even with unionization, us doing the best that we can, they are still the lowest paid. But we've also got another problem that's facing us right now that I don't know the outcome on. We got several shops in Mississippi that's not even working full time. The shop that Doris comes out of has been set on 4 days a week operation for I don't know how long. I got one in Hattiesburg that's worked 4 days a week since sometime last year. And to go to these people and say, I want some more dues, and them not even working full time, I'm dreaming, I'll tell you now. And up in the Macon and Louisville area, we've got people not set on 4 days a week, but they're not working full. They're checking out and going home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in 2 plants up there. In Oklahoma, our main plant right now is laid off to further notice. So we've got sort of a depression in the garment industry in some of the organized shops right now because they just don't have the business. So we got a different problem from most of it, I realize that.
Of course, in those cases where your members are out of work and so forth, that's a hardship case, and we can waive payment of per capita on those kinds of situations.
But to go to them, to talk about a dues increase, when
Well,
they be at home every Friday,
The question is, all right, Doris.
Mr. Ramsey, if I recall correctly, in 62 or 64, when this dues increase, per capita increase became effective, I believe, if I recall, they were set up at 22 cents.
22.
That was the beginning of the,
and
right.
some of the internationals had to pull out.
Yeah.
Now this is just food for thought.
Yeah.
Will we be losing more with a per capita increase? Will we lose some of what we already have?
That's what we have to consider.
I think you will.
Yeah. That's the question. Of course, the other question is, are we going to have sufficient income here to do what has to be done?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not for
That's a
progress
major
at all.
question, and Brother Woodson raised a very pertinent one, I think. If we're going to increase the mileage and expense allowance for members of the board and the full-time officers, are we going to also improve the income or not? I mean, that's a fact. The other fact is, are we going to try to put on enough people to do the job that we ought to be doing? The question is, where are we going to get the money, frankly, to do what we all know has to be done? Now, we're in a position now, I believe, with the money, with the work that Bob Woodson and Cecil Shelton and a few more people's doing, and trying to put together the proper kind of political alliance here in this state to really turn this state around and do some things that we all know has to be done, politically speaking. And we can get rid of booklets like we discussed here the other day, where they advertise the low wage and what have you to make this state more attractive to industry. In order to do all of these things, we're going to have to find the money somewhere. Now, if we can find the money outside of a tax increase, I'm all for it. But where are we going to get the money? That's the big question. That is the question.
We're sort of in the same situation here as the state legislature.
Neither of them friends of mine are clothing workers, but I've heard that the old gentleman retired as the head of the clothing workers. What's his name?
Petrovsky?
He said right up over his office, over this bank here, and brag how many millions of dollars they had in their treasury. I mean, millions
Well,
of
he
dollars.
may have it, but we don't. They may have it, but we don't.
Well, I ain't talking about you, but these international unions, we talking about getting an organization, everybody's pro. Yet, we got millions of dollars in there, and I don't understand what we're trying. Are we going to be a service organization, or are we just going to be hold our hands? That's what it boils down to. And when we get down to it, the people is what we're talking about, is people, not us. What's good for the people? That's all we're interested in. They figuring out a way to get it all along.
Doing a pretty good job.
Well, they don't even have, Brother Fly, they don't even have that now. They spend between $5 and $10 million on fair alone in the last year and a half. That money they had up there you talking about.
We donated something.
I know it, we appreciate it, but the amalgamate spent over $5 million out of that money they had in New York.
I tell you what, though, you could go up there a donation to the Red Cross and get $50,000, and you couldn't get $50,000 for political race in Mississippi to save your life.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
find
know.
I ain't talking about the clothing workers.
No, I don't know what they do to
I
Red
ain't-
Cross.
I ain't
I
taking
got no
out on
idea.
clothing workers, I'm talking about the
Same thing
IAM
you
is
do
one
in
of the
the
richest
state
unions in the country
administration.
too. You can't get a penny out of them.
Help the
I mean,
rich.
they brag about how much money they got.
No, they don't neither. They
Yeah.
give it all the way to Red
Yeah.
Cross and Junior Chamber of Commerce and some of those other people too, you know?
Well,
Cause I get the
that's like
minutes.
Rubber workers is just as bad. I mean, we're like you, we don't $8, we pay. for
All I can
capital
deal
tax
with is
everything.
what I got at my own disposal here in the
Well, I
state.
agree with what you're
That's where our per capita
And what my
comes from.
locals got, that's where ours
Well,
come from.
You know,
Is it possible that there could be another, a different type formula used for paying per capita tax?
Well, it might well be, you might wanna think about that. I don't know how you'd go about doing it, but, you might wanna
Hey,
consider.
based on membership.
On what, how do you mean?
Well, for an example, you know, if there's a local like Brother Jackson are talking about that's got 30 or 50 members, you know, let it remain at 20 cents. A local that's got 300 or more members, raise it. I mean, a guy shouldn't be selfish in the labor movement. You know, if I have to pay 30 cents, and that local with 50 members don't have to pay but 20, I'm not gonna be selfish or get mad about it because of the fact they are a small local, we're supposed to be helping one another.
and then everybody reduce their membership down to $299.
Well, what about, basing it on your wages?
That's not true unionism.
Couldn't do that?
Well, let's see if we can get a little order again, Brother Sheldon.
Claude, we have money with the local that already affiliated, but it's not getting it. But the local that are paying per capita tax on, like I said, 1/3 of them, and no whole
Yeah.
nother money. It should be a mandatory that they have to pay on all their membership.
It is.
If they gonna affiliate.
Yeah, I can cite you one right now.
I can cite you several, but we're not supposed to know about it.
One fella sat you and confessed, you know?
Yeah, we're not really working on him.
Don't go doing that now.
Brother Jackson wants the floor.
Brother Woodson, your suggestion would almost, mean all of my locals wouldn't pay more than 20 cents. I've just looked at the list and I've only got 5 out of 16 that's got more than 300 members. So I wouldn't go along with that. I don't believe that'd be fair. All of mine are small
Yeah,
except,
well,
with the exception of
you
one
know,
or two.
let me say, Brother Jackson, I was just throwing it out.
Right.
You could reduce it to a lower number. And I was just using it for an example.
I'm just showing on your figure what would happen though.
I think if it was a way that it could be assessed according to the salary, so much of local percent. That would be.
I've stated the problem,
It didn't work.
the needs of the organization. The question is, what do you want to try to do about it, if anything? We can continue struggling along with what we've got, doing the best we can, hoping we can increase the affiliation and get sufficient money in. But there's one thing that I'm sure of. We're gonna have to find $25,000 to $40,000 to spend in that next election if we're gonna do what has to be done in this state and turn that legislature around. This much we've got to have. We might well squeeze out enough out of the growth, you know, to take care of some of these other things we're talking about. And I would hope that out of this reorganization of the AFL-CIO, that we could work out some arrangement that we might get some staff people assigned to this organization to do some work, damn it, that's got to be done, you know. I had fond hopes that this could be worked out the last time, to have some extra manpower when the legislature was in session. We haven't got that yet. But I'm telling you that if we're gonna do the job that we know we're capable of doing in the state, we got to have the money to do it with. And where we gonna get it, that's the question.
Can
Right?
Can you make it on a nickel? That's all, you know. I know we're gonna have problems with it. You have problems every time you raise any kind of union dues. They don't say anything when they raise your taxes and all this kind of stuff. When you raise union dues, they complain about it. The only thing, you know. You don't hear them complaining about raising Social Security up to where you working people can't, you know, pay it out anymore. But, my position is that, we might lose some, but, you know, you got to
Well,
do.
if you can't operate, you gotta do
That's
something,
right,
ain't you?
you don't have no choice. And another thing too, I guess we ought to beat the bushes a little harder trying to get these people to affiliate. I don't, you know, I've threatened.
Well, that's what I was
practically
talking about a
hang
while
some, and
ago.
I'm gonna try to get out and defeat some in some local politics.
Well, let's see what Brother Davis got on.
Marty, have you made a study on, how much money you think it would need to, carry out the plan that you
Well,
thought about?
Well, again, I think, you know, what we need to do here is to set up a committee to review this matter and come up with a proposal, with the kind of money that we think it would take to get the job done. You know, this might be the answer to it. If you'd like to offer that as a motion, I'll accept it, and,
I will, but I'm afraid you're doing like you did Underwood, putting me on the committee.
That happens.
Anybody
Well, I'll tell you
second his
what,
motion?
I'll tell you what, I'll make that motion if you put him on it.
Joe said he was gonna make that motion, but
trying to
You
pass
make
the
the
buck.
motion,
I'll
Joe?
second.
I made the motion.
I second.
All right, we got a motion and a second, that we set a committee up to review this matter and make a report back to our next, executive board meeting. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. I'd now like to appoint Brother Joe Davis, chairman of that committee. And I'd like to ask Brother Woodson, Brother Underwood, and Brother Jackson to serve on that committee.
Listening to
Well,
you.
I just soon not serve.
All right, let's see if we got any volunteers. I'd like to see
I
some Sheldon.
respectfully
He'd be a good
decline to
man,
serve on that
serve on that committee. We need to give him some experience anyhow. We might as well start now.
I mean,
Cecil, Woodson, Joe Davis, and Brother Underwood. Now, do we have any volunteers? Would
See,
you
that's the way to
like
get
to
on
have
top
some more
and
help,
start with.
on the committee? You and Joe?
What did you say?
Wanna have a
Report
woman,
back
maybe?
to the next board meeting?
oh, we'd be proud to have her work with us.
You want this committee to report at the
Right,
next board meeting?
yeah, and this is what I thought we'd think about doing, and let me run this one by you. The Democratic primaries, will be what, November 4th? I mean, June 4th. The general election, November? Fourth, 5th. I thought we'd try to schedule a board meeting sometime the latter part of June or the early part of July, after the primaries is over with, and then we can take another look at these congressional races by that board meeting, and we'd like to have this committee, along with a couple of more, ready to make a report at that board meeting. Right? Okay? Of course, I'll confer with you. Davis, would you be able to serve on this committee? I think we ought to have a woman on it.
I do too,
All right. And we'll ask Joe, Bob Woodson, Cecil Sheldon, Howard Underwood, and Mavis Rochelle to serve on that committee. Doris is up in that area. She might like to serve on it.
Oh, we'd be proud to have her, since Mr. Jackson declined, we'd be.
Would you like to serve on it? Mine, it's not too far for y'all to get together. I'm trying to get a committee that will probably meet around the Tupelo area, Cecil's and Grenada, and of course, Woodson. We'll have to drive it up. All right, that is the committee to study the matter. All right. No, we done voted on the motion. I just appointed the committee. We ain't gonna vote on that. We're not gonna vote on that committee. I'm gonna exercise my authority to appoint that committee. Now, I got another matter down there, financial situation and building study. I'm of the opinion that we need to take a close look at the possibility of putting up a good building on that vacant lot that we recently purchased adjacent to the building. I'd like for you to consider that matter, possibility of setting up another committee to draft some plans, come up with a cost estimate and, the means of financing it. Cost of building is going up all the time. We've got an ideal location where we are. I think we've been very fortunate, frankly, and been able to get that property at the price we paid for it. We need some extra room in the office now. The way we're growing, in the next 2 years, we're not gonna have room to do everything we need to do. That's one thing. What do you think about the matter? Anybody want to say anything?
Is it possible that we can rent office, you talking about office space?
I'm talking about office space in the state council office, yes.
Well, would it be rentable office space in addition to what we need?
Well, the committee, if we agree to set up a committee, might want to take a look at that possibility. Maybe building a 2-story building with the offices and on one floor and rent the bottom or something like this.
Well, you know what you get into when you do
Get into
that.
tax problem, I know what you get
You
into.
immediately no longer,
Right,
an
nonprofit.
exempt organization.
Yeah, it has a lot of other problems too.
But we very definitely need to think, I think, about building a building over there sometime in the near future.
I think we need to build one. We need to build a nice one, 2-story building with just like a regular meeting hall place up on the top floor where we can have meetings of this nature right in the building itself. And this will cut down on some of the other expenses.
Now we can have a
All
board
this-
meeting place like that.
All these
you know.
organizers coming in, provide a place for them to meet. And still a good place to hold some meetings and people trying to organize.
True.
Could be used for a lot of things, but if I spent money, I'd want it to be nice, something in the 20 years, and I wouldn't have to worry about, reworking and spending more money.
Anybody else wanna have a word on the subject?
Claude, don't you think that the financial situation, the per capita tax increase will have a bearing on the situation?
Very definitely,
You're talking about $100,000 building. probably.
maybe more.
If you're talking about a 2-story one, you are, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about a couple of $100,000 in fund analysis. Yeah. Of course, we'd have to think in terms of financing that in some method other than the per capita increase. You'd have to think in terms of selling bonds or something like that, I'm not suggesting we start building a building in the morning. I think we need to start looking at the proposition, drafting some plans for the future. It's gonna take, several months of study to make a determination on what the needs are. Then the committee would have to come up with some suggested means of paying the cost of construction. You see what I'm getting at?
Oh, no doubt about that. How much
Maybe
do we
get
owe
some of
what we
these
got?
Good crafts that donate the wood for nothing.
That'll be the day. One of my folks have to eat too, don't they? Right.
What do we owe on the total operation now?
We got about 4 more years at $500 a month to have our obligations paid off. And, you might wanna think about that. By the time we get our debts paid off on the present building, we could start applying that against the cost of a new building. There's all kinds of ways of financing the thing. And I think we ought to start looking at it. We're gonna have to build a shack in the back of the building down there before long to have enough room to do everything we need to do.
Well, let me ask you, say if you had it set up to where maybe some of these other locals could use office space in it too, you build it large enough like D or HRDI or RTP or any other union. Now, when these people pay rent, that don't cause your taxes to go up.
When you do that,
any
when you
rental
build a
property.
building, when you build a building and the rent part out of it, you're gonna lose your tax exempt status. At the present time, we're paying no taxes, but if we put up a building and the rent part of it, then we'll have to pay taxes on it. But you might, you know, to get the kind of building we need, we might wanna think in terms of a two-story building, the rent part of it out, and then that rent can be applied to the cost. That's just a paying for it. That's just another way of financing it.
Are you sure that it ain't, I believe there's a loophole in there.
I do too. If it's a
As
nonprofit
long as
organization.
they are, paying the upkeep of the building or some way in there, it's a loophole in there. In other words,
Yeah, but then you're not charging them rent.
you
They
well,
got-
you
there's a
charging them
loophole
rent.
in
You
it.
don't call it
Well,
rent, but you charge, it's the same thing, the money's coming in.
Well, let me,
You can receive
you know,
the-
if you go this route, you'll have to do something like some of the local unions have done. You'll have to set up some kind of a bogus organization, like 733 in Pascagoula did. I remember that one distinctly. That's the route you'll have to go if you're gonna build and rent part of it out. Get me?
Oh, yeah.
We set up a home association, what we call it.
Yeah.
You just had to set up a non-profit organization and name it something, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of
That's
ways.
what we have to do anyway. We have to set up
We
bills.
just talking about tax exempt, if you're really looking
to
for
build a hall.
now, I mean, these big companies have told us.
It's a bunch of
Last
bull,
time
but that's
we
why,
ran,
We set up what we call a non-profit. We don't call it a
Well-
real free rubber workers hall, we call it a home association.
Yeah, well, this is what I was talking about, the bogus corporation.
Set up a corporation called a home association.
I don't know when we're gonna get out of the dark age
We pay them rent
and
every
change some of that stuff,
And at the end of the year, the association hadn't got any money in it. So what do we pay taxes on?
I assume that nobody wants to be chairman of that kind of committee, and you're not speaking up too much in favor of it, so I'm just gonna hold that one in abeyance for a while, let you think on it a little bit. The next time we have a board meeting, I'm gonna bring it up again. Okay?
Association, at the end of the year, we ain't got no money in the association, it's all gone.
All right, got one other item that I want to review with you, and then that'll complete the matters that I wanted to take up with you, and we'll take up matters that you might wanna be considered by the meeting. Passed you out a story there, any of you had a chance to read it yet? Labor leader charges anti-union conspiracy.
I read the original
Might take a minute and read that story, and then, I'll tell you about what the situation is. I was served with a court summons notifying me that I was being sued by a gentleman by the name of Newkirk, who was, one of the people arrested for the carload of stolen fish, which in turn brought about the suspension of 3 police officers, the president of the union, who you heard from yesterday. The charges under the court suit stem from a statement I made in a news conference, at which I said that these people were framed in effect, and made an effort to explain to the people in this community what was really going on in this situation. I'll read to you what it said. You know, it got all the preliminary remarks and all that kind of stuff. In the news conference, I passed out a copy of a story that was the beginning of this thing, and the headline of that story was that long goes where the law leads to loot. That was the first story that was broke about the arrest of the people with the carload of stolen fish. These arresting officers had these people at police headquarters, booked them, thinking that they would be charged for theft and duly processed. And what eventually happened was, and we got every reason in the world to believe that they've got the services of some of these prominent anti-union attorneys advising them on this thing, that the next thing that happened was that charges were dropped against the people with the stolen fish, and then charges for brutality brought against the arresting officers, and then 3 of them suspended eventually for a period of 90 days without pay. Their next recourse was an appeal to the Civil Service Commission. Civil Service Commission modified the suspension of one of the officers from 90 to 45 days, but upheld the suspension of the other two, which included the police officer. Now, I had a press conference and spelled out this whole situation because I thought it was very important to people in this community to know what was really going on in this situation. And in that press conference, I said this, according to what the court suit says: the next thing that they know, the next thing that we know, charges have been dropped against the thieves and proceedings have been initiated to prosecute the arresting officers. So what you have in this situation is that the thieves have been turned loose and charges have been placed against the officers. That is the guts of their lawsuit. Now, the attorney that represented the officers in this situation, Ed Lebrano, and I must say that he did one whale of a job before this commission, advises me that that he doesn't think that there's any foundation, that the possibility of them securing any damages in this lawsuit against me or the organization is very, very remote. As a matter of fact, he tells me that he thinks, with the information that we have, that the police officers have, that they couldn't present in the Civil Service Commission, that we can nail them all to the cross in the courtroom. That's his opinion on that matter. Of course, the officers are now gathering up the information. I've been summoned to go to court the first Monday in May over this particular lawsuit. He tells me that there's a strong possibility that we might turn around and bring suit of our own for malicious prosecution, misuse of the judicial process in this situation. That's what he advises me. I am not overly concerned about the situation, but as long as the suit's there, I have to be concerned somewhat. You know what I'm talking about. But I thought we ought to have a little discussion with the board and let you know what this is all about. Now, in the story that I placed before you, this is a weekly newspaper in Jackson, been in operation there. It's the old Northside Reporter. I must say, those of you might remember it. It was taken over by Bill Mine and some other people. They've been doing an excellent job with this paper and exposing a lot of these situations, things that the Hedemans don't touch. You don't read in the local newspaper. The reporter came over and talked to me about this lawsuit. After talking to me, she wrote that story, and I refused to have any comment about the lawsuit with her because I felt this is what they really wanted me to do. The Clarion Ledger, the Hedeman Press, is part of the overall conspiracy here in this town to fight unions, period. Public employee unions in particular. And the thing that puzzles me a little bit is why the Clarion Ledger has never reported anything at all about the lawsuit. I told the reporter there I was of the opinion what they wanted me to do is to come out with some kind of a rash statement where they could nail me to the cross. Now, in the news conference that I had about this situation, their managing editor, news editor, comes to this press conference. His name is Skelton, Billy Skelton. That gentleman deliberately tried to bait me into making some kind of a false statement that they could really bring suit about. I knew he was there, and I knew what he was up to, and I just grin at him and tell him I was in about the same position that news reporters were, that I had to have substantial evidence before I make any kind of an accusation. I talked about the police department, what was going on in the department, that I didn't feel that the police chief himself or the mayor of this town really knew what was going on inside of that department. And of course, that's where he wanted me to make specific charges on particular individuals. Now, since this activity has been going on, and since Mike Mullen was suspended, they have really shook up the police department. You haven't read about it, but the guy in charge of internal affairs that was laudedly responsible for nailing these officers, and the fashion they were, has been quietly removed from the scene. They put a decent guy in the department, and according to Mike Millen, they're really treating him in good fashion now. You know, at least we forced them into making some needed changes in the department. Another situation happened here not too long ago, where the lieutenant in charge of vice and narcotics was suspended for a period of time with pay while he was investigated. Last week, I believe it was, or the early part of this week, they made an announcement that this gentleman had been reinstated and restored to his position. Now, the city, of course, dealt with this situation in quite a different fashion from what they did with the members of the policemen's union, because this particular individual was one of the mayor's cronies. You know what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know all of the details about this particular situation, but I'm advised that it involves vice, prostitution, kickbacks, and what have you with this particular individual. Of course, I can't make any charge because I don't really know. But the innocent thing here was the difference in how they handled this matter with this particular individual, the type charges placed against him compared to the way they dealt with the members of the policemen's union, the president in particular. Right? Mr. Woods?
Well, Claude, I don't really have anything to say about it except I can just about substantiate what you've said. You know, I've kind of been involved along with Claude and others in this.
Right.
In
Central
this
Body,
effort.
Central
And,
Labor Council, and several other people.
I've seen quite a bit come out of it, quite a bit happen. And the guys who were caught with the fish, as he really mentioned, were really used, and they were forced into filing complaints of brutality against the police. And I think we can all face it. You know, I'm not for police brutality against nobody, but let's look at you know, two guys, and one of them is a professional criminal. You know, and I'll stake my life on it. And you know, both the guys were black, and the city of Jackson just ain't never give a damn about a policeman hitting a black guy upside the head 1 or 2 times. So, you know, let's face it, that's the truth. And I know that, you know, this was a setup against not just the police department, but against the efforts to organize. It's against the union more than it is anything else.
That's what it is, yeah.
And this guy who's been cooked and coerced into filing the suit against Brother Ramsey and the AFL-CIO, you know, I'm sure he was made do this. The guy wouldn't have known how to file a suit if he had wanted to, unless somebody had coerced him into it. So it's strictly a thing against the labor movement itself, more than it is anything else. And I agree that I think it's a conspiracy. We have a mayor and a couple of city commissioners here that allows themselves to be used as robots. They're just like a computer. Whatever the downtown Capitol and Pearl Street gang programming to do, that's what come out of it.
That's right.
And you know, this is what is happening. You know, and I think it's all a lot of nonsense. And I think the labor movement in this area is going to have to continue to take a stand and fight it, because not only does it affect the public sector of employees, it affects the private sector too. And I can cite you one example. This Packard industry, a division of General Motors that was mentioned here yesterday, when it came to Jackson to start its operations, they had hired people in, even people had been told that they would be paid a wage, a starting wage in excess of $3 per hour. And the Chamber of Commerce got hold to it and said, hell no, they stopped the whole thing until this company agreed to carry their wages a little below $2 an hour. They said, we want you here, but we're not gonna have no industry coming in here upsetting our wedge pattern. So we are dealing with a conspiracy that not only affects the public sector, but it affects the private sector too. Whether you're unionized or non-unionized, but an industry that comes in, paying a wage like that, has the potential of organizing, or it's kind of on a union scale. So it's really a conspiracy against the labor movement, and I would really like to see that the labor movement really defeat this issue.
Well, I don't propose to be intimidated, and that's what this amounts to. Really what it gets down to, it's harassment, intimidation, trying to stop me from carrying out what I consider to be part of the duties of my office. This is not the first time it happened. About 5 years ago, they enjoined me and tried to get me for contempt of court in the process of that strike with the other 1888 sanitation people. And I resented the hell out of it. I tried to find some means of bringing suit against those people for misuse of the judicial process, and that's what it got down to. And that's what this is all about. This is a complete misuse of the judicial process, and I don't propose to be intimidated in this fashion, and I don't think the member of this board wants the labor movement intimidated like this. I thought you were entitled to an explanation as to what it's all about. I have talked with Tom Harris, the counsel for the AFL-CIO. They are also being sued in this. The suit itself involves the national organization. I don't think it's going to cost this organization one penny in final analysis for the legal fees and what have you. And I intend to fight it to the bitter end, unless there's somebody here on this board or this board tells me not to. That's the way I propose to deal with it.
Kind of makes you feel a little funny to have a little old lawsuit hanging over.
I don't know why they didn't make it for $500,000.
See, we had that 10 million,
Yeah.
100,000, and I don't care. You can laugh about it till it happens to you, but then it gets to be pretty serious junk,
Especially when they stretch it out for about 3 years.
And man, when they got you lined up to take a deposition about a bunch of stuff that you was probably guilty of doing to start with.
Well, you see, I'm convinced. Now, listen.
And Harold Cox called it off, man.
Well, listen, I sat through 3 days, better part of 3 days for this civil service hearing. I'm convinced beyond the question of a doubt, if we had had 12 good men or women sitting there on a jury, that they would have exonerated all 3 of these officers and reinstated. I'm convinced if we go to court, and we'll have a jury trial in this one, because I'm going to insist on it. There's not going to be any settlement outside of court. If that's the way they want to play the game, then that's what I propose to do, and then the people in this town and in this labor movement outside is going to get educated as to what this thing is really all about. You get me? The lawyers, well, this young Ed Labano, he just thinks we're going to tear him up. That's about the way he feels about it. Well, I'll keep you advised and posted on this matter.
I'll tell you.
The next thing I'd like to do here, before we go any further, let's talk about a date that's acceptable to everybody for that next board meeting, the latter part of June or the early part of July. Get your calendars out, check your commitments, and let's see when everybody can be back here. I think that's the best way to do that next one.
Late June would be better for me.
Late June or early part of July. The second primary is June the 25th. I've got that date marked here. June the 25th. Which one?
All right.
22nd through the 28th.
I was just fixing to tell you, I've got one.
International conventions?
I've got one 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st too.
Of
Our
June?
district council meeting, Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Well, that appears then that we better look at the early part of July. And
You're
I'm
gonna
sure
cut
you
in
don't
on
wanna be in
people's
here on the
vacation
4th.
time.
That's gonna cut in on
Vacation.
vacation time.
That's gonna be a
Well,
rough
when
time
is-
for
when
any,
is-
for me or either
When
my
is the
people.
labor school scheduled, first week in August?
Yeah.
First
Well,
2
that's-
weeks is when all our places take vacation.
Will that affect you and,
Doris,
Doris?
especially.
Be a bad time for you?
What about,
be
say,
on
the
vacation.
Well, that's the
15th
reason
of
I'm
June?
bringing it up. We wanna try to find a mutually
Hey.
satisfactory date.
What about moving it, but what about the 15th of June?
15th of June, I already got another meeting set.
What about
Statewide.
the 14th?
What about the first and the round the first?
Well, we need it right after the election, see?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
is the first week, August is the,
25th.
Where's your other meeting at, Jackson?
It's here in Jackson on the 15th.
What
At
day
this
of the week is
hotel.
that?
Saturday.
August 4 to 9?
Well, Friday before that'd be just right, you'd have to be in town anyway the
I'd have to
next
be
day.
here anyhow, yeah.
Yeah.
14th will be fine with
What
me.
about the 14th of June? That'd even help
All right,
Jackson a little bit.
14th of June has been suggested.
That's on a Friday, and that looks like a pretty good date.
14th of June, been suggested, that will be after the first primary. But, you know, I don't think we're gonna have very much in that second primary anyhow in the congressional races. The only purpose to hold it after, later than that would have been to take a look at that. Now, I think we'll probably know where we are after the first primary.
Yeah, they're gonna get them down to one to the hill.
Right,
after the first one.
14th of June, is that agreeable to everybody?
Day of the week.
That's on a Friday.
Fine for me.
On a Friday. You wanna have it here in Jackson?
Yeah.
Jackson agreeable for everybody?
Yeah, that's where we want it.
All right.
We got our meeting here the next
It would-
day.
Let me ask you something, Joe, didn't,
Where you
didn't
gonna be
Steve Williams
staying
say
at?
something about a meeting
Jackson?
on the 15th of June?
He said between the
I'll
first
be
and
at
the
the same
15th, he
hotel.
didn't know.
You gonna be here?
Yeah.
So this is not gonna conflict. All right, everybody mark your
Would it be
calendar
handy for
then.
you just to stay here then?
Unless he had it on Friday. then.
Everybody
care
mark
where we
your
have it.
calendar.
We'll just have
for
to get
June
ahold of him and
14th.
advise him.
June the 14th then will be the next scheduled board meeting, okay? Of course, we'll get a reminder and everything out to you on that.
Well,
Yes.
if Steve Williams is in the area, along about this time, do you want me to invite him down?
Right.
And let him report on the,
Yeah, we'll want a report on the progress being made with the program.
Should just about be in the office by then, huh, Jeff?
It won't open
No,
the
it
first
won't
of
open
July, I
the
don't
first of
think.
July, they said.
Well, they said it might
Well,
get
we're
it
gonna
open
try to
early.
set up a temporary office before then, so he said the other day, but,
Yeah, he was talking about the fellow said it might.
All right, that completes the matters that I wanted to bring up with you. Does anybody else have anything they want us to consider before we adjourn?
County service is gonna cost you.
We do plan to have a committee meeting immediately after this, or not?
Yeah, I wanna meet with, the executive committee and set a date for us to get together. Right.
oh. In talking about the convention, Claude, how many rooms does it take to have a convention?
We will have probably better than 300 delegates, and when you add the guests in there that come, I'd say somewhere around 400 rooms. Singles, we're talking.
Yeah.
Of course, if they double up, it won't take that much. What you have
200
in
plus
mind?
anyway, huh?
Huh?
Around 200.
Yeah, that thing is gonna cost, wanna take it up to the natural straight?
No, not for this year, I mean, I was just talking about it, I mean, just checking, you know, for,
We thought about this, you know, you get your program
Well,
going,
they
it might
still
give
in-
you a boost to have a convention up there.
they still in the progress of adding more out there, so I,
Yeah. I think it might help if we get the program going to have some kind of a convention up there.
why?
Do we have anything else here? Now, we didn't arrange to have lunch, we just, thought we'd break for about lunchtime, let you, get lunch on your own, those of you wanna get on the road can. Now,
What kind of problem? We ain't never had no problem.
we got anything else that anybody wants to consider before we adjourn? All right, the meeting will now
All right,
stand adjourned.